Chapter 1976c, She's Crying So Deliciously. Gaga, Sakara, who was eating rather happily, was triggered when she saw the roast goose in front of her. Tears welled up in her eyes again. This color, this aroma, this plating, and this cutting skill. This boss is really a promising young man. Genevieve continued to praise with an impressed expression. She picked up a piece of breast meat with her chopsticks, and dipped it in the dipping sauce before popping it into her mouth. Genevieve's eyes lit up while she exclaimed, "Oh my God! My heavens! This roast goose is awesome! Eat it! Eat it!" She then placed a little goose's drumstick in the dipping sauce in front of Sakara. "Gaga is such a poor thing. Why is it so sad to be a goose?" Sakara cried as she picked up the drumstick, and bit into it irresistibly. The roast goose's skin was crispy and fragrant, yet the meat under the skin was tender and fat. The rich marinade seemed to have seeped into every part of the goose. The meat's juice exploded in the mouth after she bit into it. That amazed the taste buds. The dipping sauce was sweet and sour, which stimulated the taste buds. With a gentle chew, the meat and skin were separated. It became increasingly fragrant as she chewed. There was also a faint fragrance of the fruit tree charcoal. Sakara was shocked right on the spot. This taste had inverted all her imagination of roast goose. "It's so delicious," Sakara thought as she ate. However, she couldn't help thinking of Gaga, and tears fell from her eyes uncontrollably. "See, she's crying so deliciously," Amy whispered as she looked at Sakara. "Didn't she lose her goose? Why is she still eating a goose?" Jessica was rather befuddled. Amy put her head on Ugly Duckling's head. Without much thinking, she said, "It is obvious that she's sad because she didn't get to eat the goose that she has painstakingly raised." "Oh, I see." Jessica and Annie nodded thoughtfully. Sakara felt she had let Gaga down inwardly, but her body was too honest. She swallowed the entire roast goose's drumstick in the blink of an eye. Even the bones were chewed clean. "See, I say it's definitely delicious. It's so scrumptious that the maiden cries." She demonstrated what extreme scrumptiousness is, a mister from the next table remarked to his wife sitting across from him, and then carefully said, "My lady, why don't we order one to try? We might regret it if we don't eat it." "Why are you staring at a young maiden?" That lady threw him a side glance with a killing intent. "And no, I am just looking at the roast goose." The man shivered and quickly shook his head. His family status was clearly demonstrated. The lady gave the man a meaningful look before nodding slightly. "All right. Let's order one then. My lady is so wise." The man was overjoyed. He quickly summoned a server, and ordered a roast goose. Sakara, who cried after eating, indeed gave the roast goose a great advertising effect. The customers who used to let others try it out first all began to order the new product, roast goose. Looking at those roast geese that floated out of the kitchen one by one, Sakara continued to chew on the roast goose with hot tears in her eyes, and facing life with a smile. If you have problems with this website, please continue reading your novel on our new website mythanks. Verb. Sakara and Genevieve both had a long burp at the same time. The two of them looked at each other and the empty plate in front of them in a shock. Then, they revealed a polite and awkward smile. "Are you full? Let's go find Gaga now," Genevieve said. "All right." Sakara nodded. She felt guilty whenever Gaga was mentioned, but she couldn't help reminiscing about that delicious roast goose. "Let's go then." Genevieve got up to settle the bill. She still flicked a glance at the kitchen before she left, and softly praised, "This young man is really not bad. Let's go." Sakara quickly pulled Genevieve, who was looking at Mag as if he was her potential son-in-law, away. Genevieve still couldn't help looking back after coming out of the restaurant as she smilingly said, "That was such a great meal. We can always come back here again in the future. I never expected that there would be a restaurant with such delicious food in Chaos City one day." "Oh," Sakara answered lethargically. She was much calmer after coming out of the restaurant, even though she was still missing Gaga. Let's go. I'll bring to meet those aunties. They might be able to help you find Gaga. Genevieve held Sakara's hand and prepared to leave. Pft, pft. Right at that moment, two wings flapping could be heard. A big white goose, wearing a silver collar, landed in front of them with flapping wings. The two of them halted their footsteps, stunned. Sakara looked at the collar on the big white goose's neck, and exclaimed happily in surprise, Gaga! Don't run, big fat goose! I am going to kill you and cook you today. A short-haired middle-aged woman dashed over with a cleaver in her hand. She looked fearsome and murderous. That big fat goose turned back to look at her before it attempted to fly away in a panic. Don't be afraid. I'm here. Sakara swiftly crouched down to hold it, and stared at that middle-aged woman angrily. A passerby had said that it was a short-haired middle-aged woman who carried her Gaga away. It had to be this woman. That woman dashed over, and fiercely spoke to Sakara, who was holding the goose. Why you release it? This is my goose. Nonsense. This is my goose. Sakara replied furiously. She stroked the big white goose's head, and consoled, Don't be afraid, Gaga. I am here. You're the one who is talking nonsense. My goose has just escaped, and you said that it was yours. Let's ask the crowd for judgment. How can that be? I am going to hit you if you don't let go. That fat woman was about to go up to pull Sakara after saying that. There were already many people watching their farce now. I say, sister, isn't it too much to talk to a child like that? Genevieve went forward and stood in front of Sakara. The fat woman halted her footsteps, and looked at the well-dressed Genevieve. She immediately sounded weaker. Who the hell are you? I am her mother. Genevieve replied. So what if you are her mother? This goose is mine. Don't even think of stealing it. That fat woman became unreasonable again. Ha! You are really shameless. Genevieve sneered. This goose was raised personally by my daughter from an egg. It was brought up like a precious treasure. You stole it when I let it out for a walk in front of my shop today. We couldn't find it for the whole morning, and we bumped into you here. You said this was your goose, but I think you are the thief who stole it. The fat woman went white after hearing that. With an unnatural expression, she argued, Why you are slinging mud at me? How can you prove that this goose is yours? Sakara got up with Gaga, and said to that fat woman, Gaga's collar was specially custom-made for it when it was 1 year old at that Stallone's silverware shop over there. Why don't I bring you over to verify with the boss? Lunatics! Take it that I have given you this goose. I don't want it anymore, that fat lady mumbled before walking away quickly. Humph! Sakara snorted at her back, and hugged Gaga in her arms tightly. Genevieve went forward to stroke Gaga. She wanted to say some comforting words, but she ended up saying, Gaga is indeed rather fat. Sakara and Genevieve looked at each other and smiled. There was a hint of mystery in their smile. Gaga Gaga. Gaga quacked as it rubbed its head against Sakara's hand. All right, I know you are hungry. We are bringing you home to eat something now. Sakara carried Gaga, and walked towards their home as she lectured, You cannot run away as you wish in the future, and you cannot loiter alone. You must know how to run home when you meet bad people. You are a nice girl, but we cannot be together. Why? I don't deserve you. Slap. The girl was crying piteously. The hand that she retracted was even trembling. That wasn't what you said when you pursued me yesterday, you know. People change, and I am someone who changes very easily. A young man with a red punk hairstyle looked up at the sky at a 45-degree angle, and gently sighed. Actually, I have known from the start that we wouldn't last long. Why you bastard, I don't want to hold you up. You deserve someone better. The young man looked at the maiden, and calmly said, Go home early. I won't be sending you home. Wah! The maiden burst into tears and left. Sigh. A passionate person always has more trouble, the young man gently lamented as he watched the young lady go away. An old man with white hair, leaning against a pillar with a narrow bamboo rod in his hand, smilingly said, "Aren't you the jerk that the young maidens always talk about?" "I am not a jerk. I just want to give every little sister a home," the young man replied melancholically. "Oh, please. I came to Chaos City for proper business. How many girls have you ruined in the past few days since we arrived?" The old man rolled his eyes. However, if one looked closely at his eyes, they would realize they were completely white. "Grandpa, you are being too much. I only exchanged my emotions with the pretty ladies. I didn't even touch their hands, so how could I have ruined them?" "I have professional conduct," Noah said with a serious expression. "Since I cannot stay for them, I shouldn't leave too many marks on their hearts and bodies. That would be immoral. If you have problems with this website, please continue reading your novel on our new website mythanks. You are a clear-headed jerk." Morant chuckled before suddenly coughing hard. He only managed to slowly calm down after a while. "Hee hee." Noah patted Morant's back. He seemed to be quite used to Morant's coughing. He smilingly asked, "However, Grandpa, we are already here for 3 days, but we still haven't seen that thing you mentioned? Could you have calculated wrongly? Perhaps that thing hasn't escaped yet." Morant shook his head gently, and said, "That half at the Thunderstorm Mountains is sealed properly, but the other half had escaped. We have been to many places in the past 2 years, but we were always a step behind. The Septeria Oracle deduced that this thing might appear at Chaos City, so it's always good to come and take a look here." "All right, let's walk around to take a look." Noah nodded. He picked up the backpack at the side, and slowly followed next to Morant. Morant held a thin bamboo rod, but he didn't tap it on the ground like the usual blind people. Instead, he walked like a normal person. He even knew to evade when he encountered obstacles and people. He didn't look like a blind person at all. But if you looked at him closely, you would discover that his ears were moving slightly. Noah followed next to Morant, but his gaze was still sweeping around. His gaze would stop for a while whenever he saw young and pretty maidens, but he simply looked at them. He didn't make any other outrageous contact. The grandfather and grandson entered Aiden Square. Morant suddenly halted his footsteps with a grave expression. "Grandpa, what's the matter?" Noah's expression became nervous instantly. "There's a ghostly presence." A red light suddenly flashed in Morant's white eyes. He flipped his hand, and a stone that resembled a tortoise shell appeared on his palm. Crisscrossing red light began to appear on the tortoise shell. Eventually, only 2 light beams were left. A red dot appeared at their intersection. "It's that direction." Morant's gaze moved away from the Septeria Oracle. He looked at the other end of Aiden Square. That pair of white eyes seemed to be able to cut through space. "Is it really the devil?" Noah looked a little tense and expectant. It could also be someone who had contact with the devil. Morant kept the Septeria Oracle, and continued to walk ahead. "Then, do we need to do any preparation, such as setting up a spell formation?" Noah quickly caught up with him. "No, but that thing is so scary. Are we simply going over to fight with it head-on? I feel a little unconfident." Noah sounded unconfident too. "We are just taking a look. We are not in a hurry to act." "Grandpa, then what's the difference between a jerk and us if we simply loiter around and don't enter?" Noah rolled his eyes. "When did you not get excited when you came in contact with things related to the ghost?" "I will naturally be calm when I encounter what I cannot defeat," Morant answered mildly. Noah was actually lost for words. However, he had seen with his own eyes how ferocious his grandpa was. Although he was a little nervous, he wasn't scared away because of this. He continued to follow Morant, but he obviously slowed down a little. He walked about half a step behind Morant so that he could hide behind him if there were any unusual circumstances. Morant followed the Septeria Oracle's guidance, and they came to Mamie Restaurant's door. "Grandpa, is it the prison next door or here?" Noah looked at the opulent restaurant, and then looked at the high walls of Basti prison not far away. This restaurant looked rather sophisticated. However, its door was closed as its operation hours seemed to be over. Meanwhile, they had checked on the other exit of the Basti prison next door yesterday, and it seemed to be fine. "It's right here." Morant's bamboo rod tapped on the ground gently, right in front of the restaurant's door. "In this case, let me set up a formation first." Noah skipped a big step backwards, and took out a string of tortoise shells of different sizes. He flipped his hands, and the tortoise shells landed on the ground, and formed a circle that surrounded him. "You go and knock on the door." Morant tilted his head a little. "I have just set up my formation." "Grandpa, why don't you go and knock on the door?" Noah turned into a coward instantly. "Any redundant actions will prevent me from releasing my full power. I can only leave a small action like knocking on the door to you." Morant placed the thin bamboo rod vertically, and the Septeria oracle in his hands already hovered in midair. His white hair drifted in the wind, and he looked solemn. Noah gulped. This was the first time that he had seen his grandpa look so nervous. After a brief hesitation, he still stepped out of the tortoise shell's formation, and sneakily knocked twice on the door before skipping back into the tortoise shell's circle, and putting on a defensive stance. After a while, under the duo's nervous and guarded gaze, the restaurant's door slowly opened outwards, and a little half-elf girl walked out. "Go and get the adult in the house." "Oh no, he should do a tortoise shell technique bondage." However, looking at the half-elf little girl who poked out her head and half of her body, his hands that had already held the tortoise shells up high halted in midair. This little one was really too small. She looked about 3 or 4 years old, and she was so adorable. Her silvery hair was let loose, her adorable face still had some baby fat, her blue eyes were as bright as sapphires, and she had a pair of small semi-transparent pointed ears. She looked just like an angel. She looked at them perplexedly with her head tilted. "Excuse me, what's the matter?" the little girl asked in a soft voice. Noah quickly improvised. He lowered the tortoise shells down, and squeezed out a smile. "Do you want to look at tortoises? But yours are tortoise shells." Amy saw through him immediately. Noah tilted his head up a little, and lovingly said, "Although it's just a tortoise shell now, it was once a high-spirited and vigorous tortoise. It was young, and didn't know how to treasure itself. It fell in love with a fish, and risked it all for it, to the point where it lost its body. Only then did it regret it. However, only its shell was left, so, all your tortoise shells on the ground have a story." Amy took out a stool out of the blue, and sat on it at the door, looking at Noah with anticipation and her chin propped up on her hands. 2 little heads popped out behind her, and they were also looking at Noah curiously. "My tortoises," Noah looked at the 3 expectant little ones in a panic. It wasn't difficult for him to spin one story, but there were a total of 36 tortoise shells on the ground. It would be inhumane if he had to spin stories for all of them. Noah wanted to get away. He tilted his head, and softly asked, "Grandpa, I don't think these 3 little girls have anything to do with that thing. Did you calculate incorrectly? Hey, kid! Go and get the adult in the house." Morant talked to a pillar at the side. "Hey, Grandpa blind man, I'm over here," Amy said to Morant. "Why are you looking for my father? He has just finished working, and needs a break. Talk to me if you have to." Annie tilted her body, and stood in front of Jessica as she looked at Morant warily. Morant's white eyes suddenly turned towards Annie with shock and disbelief. The Septeria oracle hovering in front of him suddenly spun crazily. "Are there customers?" Right then, a gentle voice came from the restaurant. Mag walked out and stood in front of Annie. His gaze landed on the two people at the door at the same time. The attire and looks of these two people were both rather strange. The old man had white hair and beard, and he was wearing a patchwork top. His complexion was dark, and he didn't look well. His eyes were completely white with no pupils. He had a thin bamboo rod in front of him, and a SAHDR oracle was spinning on top of it. The young man next to him was dressed in slightly more normal clothes. He was wearing a green top and cotton pants, and carrying a big backpack on his back. However, his puffy red punk hairstyle was very eye-catching, which made people focus on his hair first. That had an overwhelming effect. If you have problems with this website, please continue reading your novel on our new website mythanks. However, under that cool and eye-catching hairstyle was a youthful and down-to-earth face. He looked to be about 20 years old, with fair complexion and distinct features. He had a pair of bright and clear brown eyes. If he cut his hair, his looks should be what the rich middle-aged ladies and young maidens preferred. The restaurant's lunch service is already over. If you want to have your meal, please come again in the evening, Mag said with a smile. Noah looked at Mag nervously, and picked up the tortoise shells again. He glanced at Morant sideways, preparing to act according to his reactions. We're not here to eat, Morant spoke up, his white eyes staring at Mag. Mag smilingly said to the three little ones, "All right, you three go and play in the playroom on the second floor. I got a new toy for you." "Really? What new toy? Let's go." The three little ones immediately ran into the restaurant happily. Mag was still smiling after the children left, but his voice became slightly colder. "If you are not here to eat, turn right and walk straight. You will find all kinds of fun things to do. If you turn around and walk back, you will find nice scenery too. You are not simple." Morant didn't have the intention to leave. He was still staring at Mag. "Yes. I should be the best chef in Chaos City now. Everyone who has eaten my dishes thinks that I am not simple." Mag nodded matter-of-factly. "You have seen something you shouldn't have," Morant said. "What's the background of this old man?" Mag's heart skipped a beat. At first, he thought that this was a scammer who came to cheat him. He didn't expect that he really had some skills. Morant continued, "The little maiden isn't an ordinary person, either. She is the purest that shouldn't exist in this world." Mag opened the door, and said to the two of them, "Would you like to come in for tea? Let's talk outside." "We don't drink tea," Noah replied nervously. He couldn't see through Mag's level at all. Either Mag was a completely helpless noob, or he was a powerhouse who was several times more powerful than Noah. "All right." Morant kept the SAHDR oracle, and walked into the restaurant with his bamboo rod. Noah quickly grabbed his sleeve, and whispered, "Grandpa, I don't think it's all right." Morant patted his hand gently, and gestured to him to stop fretting before he stepped into the restaurant. "No risk, no gain. I'm going all out." Noah kept his tortoise shell formation, and followed Morant in. The restaurant's door gradually closed behind them. Noah turned around to take a look and gulped. He grabbed his tortoise shells tightly as he was ready to tie Mag up in a tortoise shell bondage and render him defenseless anytime. "You can sit anywhere you like," Mag said casually, and went into the kitchen. Noah sat down next to Morant near the window, and softly asked, "Grandpa, is it him? He is the one that the SAHDR oracle is looking for." Morant nodded. "Then if we don't act now, when will we act?" Noah jumped up from his chair instantly. The tortoise shells were already spread out, and formed a formation under his feet. "You are already so big, behave more maturely." Morant frowned. "Don't set up a defensive spell formation as soon as you react. You look weak like that. Didn't you teach me that? The one who lives to the end is the winner." Noah wasn't embarrassed at all. Mag came over with the black tea, and poured a cup for each of them. As soon as he put the cups down, he said to Morant, "Who are you guys?" Mag already had a rough understanding after hearing Morant's opening words. This blind old man really had something. Although the old man didn't make things clear, Mag knew very well. That thing had something to do with the great old ones. Moreover, the information that the omniscient door gave him when they stepped in aroused his interest. The old man was called Morant. He was over 700 years old. He was a 10th-tier powerhouse of the Ghost clan, and he had severe cataracts. The young man was called Noah. He was 20 years old, and originated from the Ghost clan too. He had a 7th-tier power, which was considered a genius among the younger generation. Mag had read through all kinds of history books of the Norland continent during this time. He had read some information about the Ghost clan in an unofficial history book. The Ghost clan belonged to the demon race, but it had already been exterminated 500 years ago in the racial war. Judging from the extremely limited information, this was a very mysterious tribe. Furthermore, certain weird behaviors of the Ghost clan were recorded in that unofficial history book. Apparently, a powerful Ghost clan could drive the corpses to fight for them. There were even rumors that they were the devil's spokesperson in this world. Perhaps, because of these reasons, the Ghost clan had always been extremely mysterious. Nonetheless, they still disappeared from history. However, looking at the grandfather and grandson in front of him, Mag roughly had a judgment. The Ghost clan most probably hadn't been exterminated. They simply kept a very low profile. As for why they came looking for him, and could discover Annie's extraordinariness, Mag was really curious about that. "Who are you, then?" Morant asked Mag instead. "The boss of this restaurant, the person who received you." Mag leaned against the back of his chair. "You have seen the devil before," Morant said calmly. Noah clenched the tortoise shells nervously as he stared at Mag. "Seems like you have too." Mag leaned forward slightly, and stared into Morant's white eyes. Morant was silent for a moment before he laughed. "Seems like he wasn't able to convince you, either. I am a steadfast person who can resist temptations. His methods don't work on me." Mag laughed too. "However, how did you get rid of him?" "Perhaps he didn't expect that I was blind, so his methods were useless on me too," Morant replied. Noah listened to their conversation in a daze. He couldn't quite understand what they were saying, but he could see that his grandpa wasn't hostile to the guy, so he relaxed a bit. "Why are you looking for me?" Mag picked up the cup, and gently blew on it. "You might not know it, but these things were actually all sealed. However, half of it escaped recently. I want to find it and reseal it. The Septeria Oracle pointed me to you." Morant looked at Mag, and said, "I think you know where to find it. If you have problems with this website, please continue reading your novel on our new website mythanks. Since your so-called Septeria Oracle could bring you here to me, you should be able to find it too." "I don't know where it is." Mag shook his head. He was rather surprised that Morant's Septeria Oracle could point them to Mamie Restaurant. Mag didn't want to expose his identity now, so he was already considering if it was necessary for him to silence the grandfather and grandson duo now. The Septeria Oracle's detection range is limited, but the Norland continent is too vast, and that chap is too sneaky. Looking for it is no different from looking for a needle in a haystack. Morant shook his head. "What is the detection range?" "Within 800 km, Morant replied. "If that is the case, I am sorry that I can't help you." Mag shook his head. The Norland continent was over billions of square kilometers in size. Using a detection device that only had an 800 km detection range to search for the Great Old One was, without a doubt, looking for a needle in a haystack. "I need the help of that purest little maiden," Morant said to Mag. "She is not whatever purest. She's my daughter. You'd better not have any ideas about her." Mag's voice turned cold. "The Septeria Oracle didn't find you. It found her," Morant said. "In this case, it's your stupid stone that has a problem." Mag took a sip of tea before putting down the cup. If there is nothing else, I will have to send you on your way. Since you have met it, you should know its terror. It has escaped from the seal, and it's going to bring destruction to this world. What you are doing now is no different from being its accomplice. Morant frowned. Since you have met it too, you should know that with your power, you're not its match even if you find it. Let's not mention resealing it, Mag said to Morant. Your ghost clan has always kept a low profile, why do you care so much about it? Noah was still grasping his tortoise shells tightly under the table. His palms were full of sweat, but he didn't dare to relax at all. Judging from his grandpa's behavior, this fellow should be a powerhouse. Otherwise, he would be lying on the floor right now. This human who looked very young could actually make his grandpa wary. This indeed shocked him quite a bit. However, Noah was also rather curious about Mag's question. He had asked his grandfather about it more than once, but he had never received an answer. Morant was silent for a long time before he sighed, and said, "Because I want to undo the ghost clan's curse. If its power recovers completely, the aristocracy will become its slaves completely, and be used by it. This was the price I paid for getting out of its illusion. How do I know if what you said is the truth?" Mag frowned slightly. Morant pulled Noah's left hand up from under the table. He pulled his sleeve up to reveal his wrist. There was a black and red skull mark on his wrist. Then, Morant pulled up his own sleeve. There was also an identical black and red skull mark at the same position. This is the blood curse. Almost everyone in the ghost clan is cursed. If we cannot seal it again, this curse will be his gangway to control the ghost clan. Morant let down his sleeve, and said to Mag, "I know that you are very powerful. I don't have the confidence to defeat you, but since you have met it, you must have paid a certain price to get rid of it. I hope we can work together, and reseal or kill it when we find it. I will not harm that little maiden, but I need a bit of her blood essence to expand the Septaria Oracle's detection range. I hope you can agree." Mission triggered accidentally, Morant's request. He is one of the few existences who has the ability to locate the Great Old Ones. Could the host please establish a partnership with Morant, set out to look for the escaped Great Old One, and seal it again? Mission reward, the chance to spin the lucky wheel X3. The system's voice immediately popped up in Mag's mind. Firstly, after we cooperate, I will lead all our actions. You must work with me, and cannot work on your own. Secondly, our cooperation has to be completely secret. No third party can know about this. I think this is what you guys want too. Thirdly, Annie can provide 1 drop of blood essence, but other than that, you guys cannot make any other requests. Otherwise, I will use my methods to end this cooperation, Mag said calmly. Morant pondered for a moment before he nodded seriously. I agree to your conditions. Noah's mouth was slightly agape. He didn't expect Morant would agree to such harsh conditions. To happy cooperation. Mag raised his teacup. To happy cooperation. Morant and Noah raised their cups too, and then finished the tea in one gulp. After ascertaining their cooperation, the ambience became much more cordial. Noah kept the tortoise shells, and smilingly asked, "When can we set off to catch the devil? Is that fellow really in Chaos City? Chaos City is only so big, and you guys only found me here, so it means that fellow isn't here at all." Mag shook his head. Although the system's detection ability couldn't compare even to a rock, it wouldn't have no reaction completely if the Great Old Ones appeared in Chaos City. "Do you know where it is?" Morant asked Mag. "I can only deduce. Yesterday, the Roth Empire started a war on the Orcs and the Elves. I saw a corpse in the Twilight Forest that was completely deprived of its blood essence, and I discovered a very thick and eerie devil's presence. I think it definitely had something to do with the devil." Mag took out the photo stone, and showed Morant and Noah the horrible footage recorded in the Twilight Forest yesterday. This was a massacre after the battle. Morant frowned slightly. However, this might be a battle that was caused by the devil. The second prince of the Roth Empire, Josh, might have already sold his soul to the devil. He then took the opportunity to start the war while the king and the first prince were taking part in the peace meeting in Chaos City, and he ordered the massacre of all the conquered tribes. The footage stopped at the corpse that was drained of its blood essence. This is... Morant suddenly stood up, and stared at that body with shock. Have you seen this before? Mag asked. This is a corpse that was drained of its resentment and blood essence and left behind by someone who is controlled by the devil. I have met a demon who was controlled by the devil 500 years ago. He had massacred many small villages back then, and the corpses he left behind all looked like that. Morant nodded his head gravely. I didn't expect it to reappear again now. Mag was thoughtful. This basically matched his deduction. He said, I don't know where to look for that escaped half of the devil now, either, but Josh might be our breakthrough point. We have to find him first. We have to catch or kill him to prevent him from getting stronger, and becoming the next devil. He's the devil's spokesperson. The devil will look for him personally, and take his body when he is powerful enough. We indeed have to find him as soon as possible. Morant nodded. Let's set off tonight. I'll bring you guys to the Twilight Forest. It was where he last appeared. Mag set the time. That little maiden's blood essence. If you have problems with this website, please continue reading your novel on our new website mythanks. I will pass it to you tonight. Alright, then we won't hold you up any longer. Morant nodded and left with Noah. Mag didn't get up to send them off. Instead, he poured a cup of tea for himself. Unifying all the power to deal with the Great Old Ones was his primary policy now. The Anti-Great Old Ones alliance on the Norland continent was basically formed, but the enemy was in the dark, while they were in the open. They were all searching blindly. It didn't matter how many people they had if they couldn't ascertain the devil's location. Morant's Septaria oracle was mysterious and interesting. It could detect the devil's presence. Even Annie, who had already been successfully purified, could be found by him. It was obvious that he indeed had some skills, and he had the style of an otherworldly expert. Mag had to find Josh and kill him before the latter did something worse. Amy poked her head out at the staircase's turn, looking at Mag, who was drinking tea alone, and asked, Father, are those two people bad eggs? They are not really bad eggs. Mag shook his head smilingly, and waved to the little one. Amy approached Mag, looked into his eyes, and whispered, Blink if you are being threatened. No one is threatening me. Mag stroked the little one's head with a chuckle. It seemed like she had been worried about him upstairs. He couldn't help feeling touched. I'm very formidable now. Father must tell me if there are bad eggs trying to hurt you. I will crush them for you. Amy clenched her fists. I am super fierce. Him. My little tiger is super fierce. Mag nodded with a smile. However, the little one looked so adorable when she was trying to look fierce. She didn't look threatening at all, and it made him want to pinch her little face. Hee. Amy pounced into Mag's arms, and rubbed her face against his chest. Then, can we have roast goose tonight? Noah followed Morant out of Mamie restaurant, and softly asked, Grandpa, is that chap trustworthy? Do we really have to listen to his instructions? I heard that there was a very formidable youngster in the human race lately. He has defeated many people. Benson, Weston, and Bruno all died under his sword. There was a hint of lament in Morant's voice. They were all powerhouses of his era. Noah's eyes instantly widened as he said with shock, You are saying that he is Alex? A 30-year-old human who can give me such an oppressive feeling. There should be no one other than him. Morant nodded slightly. But he is the #1 knight on the Norland continent, a dragon slayer who can fly up to the sky, a terrifying existence who can slaughter the king of the forest trolls. How did he become the boss of a restaurant and a stay-home dad? Noah still had a look of disbelief. They had been traveling around the Norland continent for the past few years, and he had heard plenty of rumors and tales. Alex's stories were his favorite. Alex had already become a legend that crossed all the races. He had already become the legend of the entire Norland continent. A human with a long sword and a purple-striped griffin had made all the powerhouses terrified of him. Furthermore, he had won the heart of a beautiful elven princess. He was always deemed as an idol by Noah. However, such a super powerhouse like him actually became the boss of the restaurant and a stay-at-home dad with 3 kids. Everyone has their own life and secrets. If you want to live longer, don't attempt to probe others' secrets, Morant faintly said. Noah had a bunch of questions, but he didn't decide to voice them out. He turned to flick a glance at Mamie Restaurant, and inwardly said, I don't care about the secrets, but I can build a good relationship with my idol. This is a rare opportunity. A crisis is imminent. I wonder if she can undertake the heavy burden of saving the world. Outside the Chaos City's city gate, a bishop in a long white robe put down his hat, and stared at the Chaos City's towers in a daze. The people lining up behind him urged him, Sir, you should move now. I'm sorry. The bishop retracted his gaze. He nodded and entered Chaos City with the crowd. Put the entire city under the state of alert, and tighten the checks on those who enter the city. All the outposts will contact 24 hours surveillance to prevent enemies who could attack from anywhere. Assemble a rapid reaction force that can march out to assist the Peace Alliance at any time. The war can break out any time. You all must be on full alert, Michael said gravely to the City Lord's Castle's officials in the meeting hall. All of them left, and began to carry out their tasks. The peace meeting halted suddenly as the Roth Empire started a war. The City Lord's Castle also swiftly descended into busyness. Dicus went up, and reported, My lord, Lewis has arrived in the hall. I'll go over right now. Michael picked up his teacup, and gulped down all the water in it before he walked out, and said, Is our document ready? Yes. It's ready. We have rewritten it according to your corrections yesterday. We were about to show you. Dicus nodded. Put that aside. I will meet Lewis first. Michael nodded and hastened his steps. Michael barely got any rest after the war started. He thought the Roth Empire only wanted to add some bargaining chips for the negotiation, but judging from the outcome, this war had already gone way beyond all of their expectations. The Roth Empire's methods were way crueler than the racial war back then. They had massacred dozens of Orc tribes. Even the Og tribe was almost defeated. Over 50,000 innocent Orcs were killed. This had a huge impact on the Orc race, and caused an indelible hatred. The Elves' death toll was slightly better. The defensive battle of the City of Life was very successful as Irina managed to get there in time and stop the situation from deteriorating. However, after being attacked by their trusted neighbors suddenly, and having their core city almost conquered and the Tree of Life almost destroyed, the Elves would most probably never trust the Roth Empire as an ally again. All the races heightened their war readiness. All their powerhouses remained in their settlements to prevent any unforeseen circumstances from occurring. There were no more hopes for resigning the peace treaty. The new racial war could break out any time, so now everyone was fretting for themselves. Lewis saw Michael come in, and got straight to the point. Michael, the giant dragons have reached a consensus. If the Roth Empire doesn't give an explanation that all the races can accept, we will send an expeditionary force to the Roth Empire. Michael sat down across from Lewis. After a brief moment of hesitation, he nodded, and said, Chaos City will send an elite force to attack the Roth Empire as a response to the giant dragon's decision. All right, I will pass your message on. Lewis nodded, and said, However, does Alex have any information regarding the devil? I don't receive much information from him now, either, but I trust that he is also investigating this matter. Michael shook his head. Lewis got up, and said, All right, then. I need to go make a trip to the goblins and the dwarves. If there is any news regarding the devil, I hope you can let us know as soon as possible. Sure. Michael, too, got up to send him off. The roast goose was a huge success. It became the foodie's new favorite because its unique texture and exquisite taste were irresistible. Mag wasn't surprised about that, as even he himself couldn't resist the roast goose's temptation. After the dinner service, Mag bought a blood collection and preservation device from the system, and took a drop of fresh blood from Annie's finger. The two children were tired after playing for the whole day. They fell asleep before Mag could finish his story. Mag walked out of the room. There, Irina was leaning against the door frame. He told her, I got to know two people from the Ghost Clan. They might be able to locate Josh and the Great Old One that has escaped from the seal. I will be making a trip to the Twilight Forest with them tonight. That old man looks weird. Are you sure there are no problems? Irina looked out of the window. Morant and Noah were already waiting under a tree in the park not too far away. They found me with a Septaria oracle. They said they could sense the presence that I have seen on the Great Old Ones on me. I think he really has some skills. Mag nodded. Such a live detector was hard to come by. Compared to searching around blindly like a headless chicken, using a radar scan with an 800-kilometer coverage was obviously more efficient. Be careful, Irina reminded him gently. I will. Mag nodded slightly, and went downstairs. The thing that you want? Mag tossed the little crystal bottle to Morant. Morant reached out to catch it. He raised the little crystal bottle, and looked at it in the moonlight. A drop of champagne gold blood sparkled like a gemstone. She's the purest one. Even her blood is so pure. Morant was a little out of sorts. Hello. After knowing Mag's identity, Noah had an obviously much humbler attitude. He was also looking at Mag with a different gaze. There was an additional hint of admiration. Hello. Mag nodded his head slightly. He had quite a good impression of this boy with the punk hairstyle. He then said, it's time to set off. All right, let's set off now. Morant kept that little crystal bottle carefully. Soon after, a purple-striped griffin left Chaos City quietly, and flew towards the Twilight Forest. Noah sat next to Mag, and nervously asked him, should I address you as Mr. Alex or Boss Mag? Whatever you like, Mag answered casually. Noah even went to have a meal at the restaurant that evening specially. Then I'll call you Boss Mag. It feels friendlier. Noah smiled and moved closer to Mag, as if changing the form of address had indeed made them closer. I'm Noah. The Ark. Hey. Nothing. Ark. This nickname will do too. You can call me anything you like. Noah chuckled, displaying his bootlicker characteristics. Mag answered. He was about to close his eyes to rest for a while. I didn't expect that you would be such an excellent chef while being such a powerful knight. You must have worked very hard. Noah asked him expectantly. No. This is pure talent. It has nothing to do with hard work. Just like you can never beat me no matter how hard you work, Mag replied calmly. Chapter 1981 How happy are you? Mag looked at him, and seriously asked, how happy are you? Very happy. Noah wanted to cry. Then, you are being happy too early. People who worked with me were usually very tired, Mag calmly said. I'm not afraid of tiredness. I like to work with you. I feel proud. Noah chuckled. It would be a very proud affair to tell people in the future. Mag flicked a glance at him. But I'm afraid you will be my burden. Noah. All right, there was no way to continue the conversation. This was the first time Noah had felt a blow from a big shot. It was hurtful to him. Although my grandson isn't of much use, he can still act as bait. Morant, who had kept quiet, finally spoke up. Noah's eyes widened, and he turned to look at Morant with disbelief. Perhaps this was the reason that his grandpa brought him along. Him? The devil most probably won't take to him. Mag shook his head. You're right. He's too ordinary. Morant nodded his head too. Noah slowly moved to the back. He descended into silence, hugging his knees. The purple-striped griffin was flying very fast. They could see the twilight forest in a distance in less than 3 hours. Morant had dripped Annie's blood essence into the Septeria oracle during the journey. The thin red lines on the Septeria oracle changed to gold. The closer they got to the twilight forest, the more the golden light sparkled like the starry sky. He has indeed appeared here before, and he has stayed in more than one place. Morant looked at the hovering and spinning Septeria oracle with an exceptionally grave expression. Let's take a look at the nearest marked point. Mag swept a glance at the Septeria oracle, and drove the purple-striped griffin downwards diagonally. The golden light spot got closer and closer, and ruins slowly appeared in their vision. The once prosperous middle-sized tribe was razed to the ground and reduced to white ashes. The orcs from the other tribes had to have already processed the scene. A tall mound of earth was in the center of the tribe's settlement, and a black, charred stone pillar was stuck on it. A cheetah was engraved on the top of the stone pillar. It should be the totem of this tribe. After making sure that there was nobody around, the purple-striped griffin landed on the ground. If you have problems with this website, please continue reading your novel on our new website mythanks. Morant walked one round in the ruins, and finally stopped in front of the earthen mound. He gravely said, he stopped here briefly, and it was not too long ago. Judging from the aura, it wasn't the devil itself. However, the chap who sold his soul to the devil was in way too deep. His potential increased exponentially after absorbing so much blood essence and resentment. He will get harder and harder to deal with. How powerful is he? Mag asked with a frown. Josh had been only a mere 7th-tier magic caster. Although he hadn't really been helpless, he indeed hadn't been a threat. However, his power had suddenly increased after causing this war and massacre, and absorbing all the resentment and blood essence. This wasn't a good thing. Morant sat down, and crossed his legs. He made a seal with his hands, held a golden red talisman between his 2 fingers, and started chanting. Next, he pointed at the earthen mound in front of him. The golden red talisman suddenly burned up, and drifted to that earthen mound before merging into it. The ground began to vibrate suddenly. The tightly packed earthen mound also vibrated along with it, and soil began to fall off it. Zombies! Mag instinctively took 2 steps back. The night was chilling, and so many orcs had just died. The earthen mound was trembling non-stop as if something was going to crawl out of it. It was indeed a little terrifying. Don't be nervous, Boss Mag. My grandpa is interacting with them, Noah said with a laugh. He didn't expect Alex to be afraid of ghosts. You can interact with ghosts. Mag frowned. Yes, we are the ghost clan. Isn't it normal for us to interact with ghosts? Noah nodded. See, we don't really look like ghosts, either. Mag was thoughtful. It seemed like he had to go back to find and read up on information about the ghost clan. He knew too little about them. The ground suddenly stopped vibrating, and a broken face appeared above that stone pillar. It exchanged a few words with Morant in a strange tone, and it quickly disappeared. Morant sighed, and then slowly got up. In a grave voice, he said, their bodies were burned, and their souls were snatched and devoured. Only a bit of residual souls was left. I can't get much information from them. That guy was in black robes, and his power was above the 9th tier. He might have already reached the 10th tier. If there are enough residual souls and resentment, you are able to extract more information, right? Mag asked. Yes. The corpses can speak because the souls won't disappear immediately, and the resentment can last even longer. The more complete the soul is, the more information we can extract. Morant nodded. Let me bring you guys to a place. Mag leaped onto the griffin's back again, and brought Morant and Noah away. Very soon, the griffin landed at ruins 160 kilometers away. Just like the previous tribe, this place had also been processed. The tall grave mound looked lonely. The occasional calls of the crows made it feel even more desolate. This was the tribe that Mag had come by yesterday. The resentment is very heavy. It actually wasn't devoured completely, Morant said with surprise as soon as they landed. I came here yesterday. He should have left in a hurry when he sensed my presence, so he didn't absorb all the resentment in time, Mag said. Oh, I see. This will be easy, then. Morant nodded. He didn't waste time talking, and immediately sat down in front of that grave mound, and began to do his spell. Looking at the whiffs of green resentment emerging from the mass grave, apart from feeling a little spooky, Morant reminded Mag of a Taoist priest performing an exorcism when Mag looked at his back. This ghost clan was rather different from what he had imagined. They actually didn't get their name from having ghostly abilities or having weird looks, but rather from having the ability to communicate with ghosts and spirits. 10 odd minutes later, Morant chanted an unintelligible and obscure spell after talking to those spirits, and those lingering whiffs of resentment slowly dissipated. The surroundings were clear again. Morant got up, and said to Mag, they said it was a young man who was devouring the resentment. They couldn't see his face, but he had a terrifying presence on him. His power was 9th tier. He hadn't broken through to the 10th tier yet. He appeared soon after the tribe was massacred, but somehow he left in a hurry. Mag nodded slightly, and said, seems like we are basically sure that it was Josh who did this. Chaos City is investigating the Ministry of Defense right now. He should have gone over Andre to start this war so that he could absorb the resentment of those innocent people who were massacred. Morant said to Mag, we have to find him as soon as possible. Given his current power, he could easily annihilate a town without any powerhouses guarding it. The more he kills, the stronger he will be. It isn't just killing people. I'm afraid his motive is to trigger a new racial war. The devil, and he won't be satisfied with just 1 or 2 villages, Mag said gravely. Do you know him very well? I indeed know the enemy pretty well. Mag laughed self-deprecatingly. It was he who chose not to kill Josh, because he thought he knew Josh well. That was what caused the massacres today. Then where can we find him? Morant asked. Let's comb through the Twilight Forest first. If he isn't here, then let's look around the Roth Empire's borders area. After some pondering, Mag said, Andre won't be starting a war in a hurry without straightening out the military first. He's someone who needs to have total control over the situation. But Josh won't be waiting. He will definitely create new troubles, and it is completely reasonable for the Orcs to attack the Roth Empire in retaliation. All right. We'll search for him according to your deduction. Morant nodded without any doubts about Mag's deduction. Awesome. I didn't expect Alex to be such a strategist apart from being powerful. He's so admirable. Noah looked at Mag with adoration. All of them boarded the Griffin again. Mag let Ozzy comb the Twilight Forest. The detection range of 800 kilometers made the originally difficult to achieve carpet search doable. However, the Twilight Forest was very vast. It still took 2 hours to search it even with Ozzy's speed. He only stopped briefly at a few suspicious locations. Judging from the traces of the evil aura, he has most likely entered into the Roth Empire's territory. He could also have gone to the remote north, which is off the beaten track, Morant said while the Griffin hovered over the edge of the Twilight Forest. Let's go check out the border. Mag nodded. He rode the Griffin into the Roth Empire's borders, and began patrolling along it. The evil aura became much weaker after it entered the Roth Empire. It was scattered irregularly without any order before disappearing mysteriously and completely. Morant's expression was a little complex. He said in a low voice, he should have found a way to conceal the evil aura. I'm afraid it's no longer feasible to find him by tracking the evil aura. We can only continue to scan the area. As long as he appears within the Septaria Oracle's detection range, we can lock onto him. Mag saw the sky slowly turning bright at the horizon. They still couldn't find Josh after searching for the whole night. This fellow's anti-detection ability was giving them a headache. I should be going back now. I'll leave this to you guys. Let's keep in contact at all times. If you find him, don't react in a rush. Contact me first, and I'll rush over as soon as possible, Mag said to the two of them. Yes. You must have very important matters to do. Please go ahead. Noah nodded with an understanding expression. It's nothing important. It's just that my wife, kids, and a warm bed are waiting for me at home. I can go back to sleep in for a while, Mag replied calmly. Noah opened his mouth, and revealed a bitter smile. Listen to that. Is he for real? I'm going. Mag patted Ozzy's back, and Ozzy took off and flew towards Chaos City, while Mag closed his eyes for a rest. If you have problems with this website, please continue reading your novel on our new website mythanks. Grandpa, what do we do now? Noah asked despondently. Only the two of them were left in the quiet mountains now. I saw a military camp over there earlier. Go get us a steel eagle, and we will continue the search. Now that we have a direction, and the detection range is greatly expanded, this is a rare opportunity for us. Morant looked excited. He didn't look tired even after not sleeping for the night. All right. It's time for me, the bait, to start working. Noah turned around, and dashed towards the military camp. He was floating and drifting just like a ghost. It was already 5:30 am when Mag arrived home. He went upstairs to take a bath and meditate for 15 minutes before getting up to prepare breakfast and the breakfast service as usual. As a man who had stepped into the demigod realm, he wasn't tired even when he didn't rest for the whole night. However, it was indeed a tad disappointing that he still couldn't find Josh when he had brought a giant live detector along with him. You didn't find him? Irina came downstairs, and watched Mag, who was cooking the porridge in a daze, as she leaned against the door frame. He wasn't in the Twilight Forest, nor was he at the borders of the Roth Empire. I'm a little curious where this fellow is hiding. Mag stirred the porridge in the pot slowly. Andre has returned to the Roth Empire. It's not likely that Josh can go over Andre and start a war again. Unless he became the king of the Roth Empire. Irina smiled. That is what he has always wanted. After absorbing all the resentment and blood essence, his power is above the 9th tier, but he hasn't reached the 10th tier yet. It's impossible for him to kill Andre and Sean, and suppress all to become the king of the Roth Empire. Mag shook his head. Even I will have a hard time killing Andre when he is in the Rodog Palace. But he is Josh, one of Andre's favorite sons and the second prince who is very likely to become the next king of the Roth Empire. Moreover, he has sold his soul to the devil. The fact that he has gone over Andre to mobilize the army to invade the Orcs and Elves at the same time has already proven that we can't use logic to judge his ability. Irina looked very serious. Mag turned quiet after hearing that as he considered Irina's words seriously. The power that the Great Old Ones bestowed on Josh was unknown yet, and his identity was indeed very special. However, it isn't really a bad thing if Andre dies. This sly old fox is bad, and he is even harder to deal with than Josh and Sean. On top of that, he is very ambitious. Irina smiled. Furthermore, as long as Josh ascended the throne, he would be in the open, and it would be much easier for us to look for and kill him. Mag nodded. Perhaps I should find some time to go to Rodu. He will only become more and more powerful as this drags out. It will be too late when he is completely taken over by the Great Old One. I will go with you, then. Only the holy light can purify the evil aura. I will send him to heaven personally. Irina's voice was cold. Oh, yes, Do you know about the Ghost Clan? The two guys yesterday were from the Ghost Clan, Mag said. The Ghost Clan? I think I have read some records about them in the library many years ago. Didn't this demon tribe go extinct a few hundred years ago in the racial war? Chapter 1983 Unfilial Son, Burden. That courtier shuddered, and lowered his head even more. Keep those from the military locked up. Don't release any of them, and none of this news should be leaked. Andrei regained his composure very quickly. He said in a deep voice, "Get all the magic casters Josh met in Magus Tower that day under control, and tell Richard to come to me." Yes. That official left quickly. Very well. After so many years, you're finally coming up with something different. I do want to see what exactly you want to do. The door to the royal study closed slowly, and Andrei sneered. He was the one who caused his two sons to vie for the throne. The road to the throne had always been filled with blood and thorns. This could increase a person's strategic thinking and courage, therefore grooming a powerful, cold-blooded king. That was how he got the throne back then. Therefore, he was giving Josh a chance, and also presenting Sean with a threat. All these years, Sean had been managing the military, and had contributed a lot at the northwestern front line. Therefore, he had gained support and respect from the army. Meanwhile, Josh had become the disciple of the president of the Magus Tower, and had been shining brightly in that aspect, earning support from the courtiers. However, despite the two being rather on par with each other, Andrei did not think that it was enough. It was a far cry from how he defeated his older brothers one by one on his route to the throne as the sixth prince. But Alex's assassination and Sean's arm being chopped off as well as Josh's plan did shock Andrei. Back then, Alex was overpowering him, and was rather close with Sean. Therefore, Andrei was a little worried about Alex. This was why he did not stop Josh, and even secretly helped him remove some obstacles. What he did not expect was that Sean actually became Josh's accomplice in that operation, and that was how the assassination on that rainy night happened. This caused Andrei to abandon his suspicion of Sean, and also discount Sean's bravery and strategic planning inwardly. If, on that rainy night, Sean had saved Alex at all costs, he would probably have been the one sitting here now. Josh did not kill Alex in the end. Instead, he maimed him, and allowed him to leave. This caused the situation they were facing today as father and sons against this strong enemy. It was also an utterly foolish move. However, even if Alex was very powerful, he was not undefeatable. As long as Josh stayed in the palace, Alex would not dare to barge in to kill. His death threat was not a checkmate to Josh. But at this moment, Josh actually made use of the chance while Andrei and Sean were in Chaos City for the peace meeting to wage a war on the Orcs and Elves, with the order to slaughter all of them at that. What was his reason for that? Andrei could not understand despite thinking about it for a day and a night. Catching the Orcs off guard was successfully grabbing the opportunity. If Josh had deployed the troops from the other military zones beforehand and come up with a better plan, they might really have been able to take down the entire Twilight Forest with this sudden attack. But what was the reason for attacking the Wind Forest? The Elves were one of the Roth Empire's few allies, and they were the only ones with a good relationship with the Roth Empire for thousands of years. But the attack on the City of Life this time had completely ruined this relationship, pushing the Elves to the side of the peace alliance. Be it war or negotiations, Josh had already thrown his best card out too early. Unfilial son, burden. Andrei let out a heavy sigh. Scoundrel! 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 Oster smashed a table after hearing the report on the number of deaths and casualties of the Orcs. Most of the tribes at the border were tribes standing with the Og tribe for war. They had had various exchanges with the Roth Empire for years, and had maintained their fighting ability. However, with the Roth Empire's invasion this time, tens of Orc tribes were massacred, and that caused the number standing for war to decrease significantly. Even the Og tribe almost fell. We did not have powerhouses to guard the place, so we were unable to resist their cavalry," an injured orc chief said softly. "Shut up!" Oster glanced at him coldly. The orcs in the tent all pulled a long face, hesitating to speak as they looked at Oster. Oster was afraid of Alex. That was why he'd brought all the 10th tier powerhouses and even some of the 9th tier powerhouses with him to the peace meeting as his guards. This caused the orc tribes to have insufficient powerhouses to fight off the Roth Empire Northwestern Allied Forces invasion, and there was even no one to facilitate a fight, causing all tribes to be on their own, which resulted in their fall. "Why don't we join the Peace Alliance too? The Roth Empire is too strong, and we have suffered really heavy losses. We are no longer able to fight against them." One of the chiefs broke the silence. "I agree too. The orcs are currently split into two groups. The pro-peace group is stronger than us now. We might not be able to defeat the dwarves and goblins. What do we have to fight with the Roth Empire?" another chief quickly chimed in. "I refuse. The Roth Empire has killed so many of our people, and massacred so many of our tribes. If we were to join the Peace Alliance, are we not taking revenge for them anymore? I won't be able to take such humiliation lying down even if you can." "Exactly. We can also form a group of powerhouses to launch a sudden attack on the Roth Empire, and massacre tens of their towns to take revenge for our people." Voices of objection sounded. The pro-war and pro-peace were quickly engaged in a fervent debate. Some even pulled out their weapons, as though they were going to fight it out if they did not have their way. Oster knew he had a part to play in this, and his face darkened as he watched the chiefs slowly go out of control. In the Falk tribe, there were tens of horse-drawn carriages carrying different things parked at the central square. "Bring these items to the Udo tribe immediately. They have suffered great losses from this battle. I will get 3 healing magic casters to go along with some medicine," Connie told the leading orc as they stood before one of the horse-drawn carriages. "Yes, Chief. I will definitely ensure that the resources are sent over safely," that orc said respectfully. "Also, this batch of resources is for the Kila tribe. Their settlement has been damaged, and requires rebuilding," Connie said as she pointed at 2 horse-drawn carriages at the side. "Chief, the Kila tribe is a pro-war tribe, right? Why are we helping them?" The orc looked at Connie with bewilderment. "When war comes, the enemy will only attack any orc tribe they can attack. They will not distinguish between a pro-war tribe or pro-peace tribe." Connie looked at that orc with a shake of her head, and said, "No matter where we stand, we are firstly all orcs from the same race." That orc fell deep in thought before nodding in agreement. The chief might be young, but she is a very logical thinker, and is very amiable, just like the old chief. "Yes. We of the Falk tribe should count ourselves lucky that we did not fall into the hands of the devil, and even got ourselves such a capable chief. The pro-war group has really suffered heavy losses because of Oster, that coward. I wonder if they will continue following that fellow." Some orcs were chatting softly amongst themselves. They were full of praises for Connie. Connie walked past calmly, but her upturned lips revealed what she was currently feeling. "Master, did I do a good job? I hear many people praising me discreetly," Kreese asked Rex excitedly after boarding the horse-drawn carriage parked nearby. Rex nodded expressionlessly. Not bad. Hey, there isn't even a hint of sincerity in that praise." Connie pouted, but was still very happy. "We need to go to the Hulk tribe now," Rex told Connie. "Aren't they Oster's followers? Their chief wants to join the pro-peace group, but there are differences internally. Are we going to persuade them?" Connie asked. Rex said calmly, "No. We are going there to solve their conflict." "All right. This is very much like what the Hairless Powerhouse would do." Connie gave Rex a thumbs up. The horse-drawn carriage moved out of the Falk tribe, and very quickly disappeared into the night. This war happened because of the Roth Empire's sudden attack and Oster's foolish deployment. The pro-war group has suffered heavy losses, and people have started losing respect for Oster. There were many tribes thinking of leaving the pro-war group and joining us in the pro-peace group. We must take this opportunity to bring them over to the pro-peace group, which will allow the pro-peace group to represent the voices of more orcs, Rex said. Mm. Connie nodded. In that case, what should we do? You'll conquer them with your principles, and I will conquer them with my brawn, Rex said seriously. All right. Connie nodded seriously. The Wind Forest. If you have problems with this website, please continue reading your novel on our new website mythanks. High Priestess, the Quant family's and Besa family's leaders would like to see you. They have something to report to you. An elf entered the starry cave, and reported to High Priest Helena, who was sitting on the elevated platform with her back facing the cave entrance. Arrest all of them, and hold a public execution in Life Square tomorrow. They can say anything they want to all the elves there, Helena said coldly. Yes. That elf shuddered, and left the cave quickly. High Priestess, spare us. Very quickly, there were two voices shouting from outside the cave. The shrills and cries faded away quickly. High Priestess. More and more families in the City of Life have announced that they would be burning the slave contract and returning their slaves' freedom to them. The situation has gone out of control. There are also many elves marching in the streets despite the obstructions imposed, saying that they want to abolish slavery completely so that all elves will be equal. Many of these elves are the nobles and highly regarded elves. Soon, Elliot rushed into the starry cave as he reported urgently to Helena. Helena, who had her back facing the cave, finally got up and looked down at Elliot. Elliot quickly said, High Priestess, we should quickly deploy guards to arrest all of them. If things got even bigger, it would be difficult to clean up the mess. The foundation of the entire Wind Forest would be challenged. These people are so foolish. If everyone had been so clear-headed like you, the Wind Forest and the City of Life would probably have ended up with the Roth Empire, Helena mocked. Elliot's face changed immediately. He felt his legs go jelly, and he dropped to his knees, shivering as he said, High Priestess. I am absolutely loyal to the elves. I only suggested that because I was worried that the elves would be wiped out. I am really thinking for the elves wholeheartedly. I think you're just afraid to die. If your land had been in the north, the first thing you would have done would probably have been to run away just like those fools, or invite the Roth Empire's cavalry into the forest, right? Helena smiled mockingly. How is that possible? I would have done my best to protect the forest, and would have never taken a step back. Elliot's forehead was filled with perspiration, and he lowered his head, afraid to look at Helena. Helena watched the kneeling Elliot for a very long time. Elliot's head hung lower and lower until it was buried in the ground. His body was shaking. A scoff filled the cave. From today onwards, you will be stripped of all your duties and status. Return to your castle and lead your lonely life. Helena looked at Elliot and scoffed. This is the lightest punishment I'm giving you on account of Sally. You should be glad you gave birth to a good daughter. Why yes, High Priestess. Elliot felt as though all the energy in his body was sucked out. He clambered up, and staggered out of the starry cave. Here. Helena's voice rang from inside the cave. Very quickly, an elf entered the cave. Disseminate my orders. Do not hinder the marching elves. I want to see if their choice this time is right, Helena said calmly. Yes. The elf left quickly. Helena actually did not deploy troops to arrest the marching elves. What does she have up her sleeves again this time? Snare stood at the window on the second floor of a two-story building. He watched as more elves joined the march, and observed the sparse dots that were the guards around the march as he frowned. The Roth Empire's invasion had impacted the Wind Forest greatly. The elves found out that the landlords, who had led a life of luxury, chose to flee or surrender the moment they faced the invaders, and it was the oppressed lower-tier elves who stood out bravely to protect the City of Life and the Wind Forest in the end, just like how they had a century ago. The elves had a very long lifespan, so many of the elves who had taken part in the racial war were still living in the City of Life. When their memories of the war were awakened, and they saw that the brothers and friends who used to fight side by side with them were actually reduced to lowly slaves, they were so ashamed they could no longer enjoy everything they had in silence. Therefore, there were noble elves burning slave contracts, and marching for peace and freedom. This was a good thing to the night elves as well. However, what SAHDR found strange was that there was no action taken by the elven troops. Helena, who always thought that freedom was a curse, actually silently allowed all this to happen publicly in the City of Life. Chapter 1985 Amy's Request. But Boss Mag said he hoped to release these 2 articles in 2 separate issues. Milo spoke up. Another supervisor in charge of typesetting said, "Besides, we have to do a lot of work if we add it at the last minute. It'll be very difficult to get the sample issue out by today. In the current situation, no one knows if tomorrow or an accident is to come first. If this is going to be Perfect Food's last issue, I hope it can leave a mark in the magazine's history." Garland's gaze swept over everyone present. "I know every one of you loves this industry. As someone who loves perfect food, anything is possible, right?" The eyes of all of them lit up, and they nodded before they got up, and threw themselves into work. After everyone left, Milo, who was still left, asked Garland suspiciously in a soft voice, "Is that really so?" Garland closed the door, sat behind his desk, and softly sighed. "It's nonsense. The big boss wants to make a last killing because he's worried about the situation, so I push forward Boss Mag's article." Milo chuckled when he heard that. "Anyway, the truth isn't too far off. If this is the last issue, missing Boss Mag's tutorial of the eggplant with garlic sauce will definitely be my greatest regret. Yes. Boss Mag not only cooks well, he's also excellent at writing cooking tutorials. I even wonder if he has written food reviews before? Did he have another identity?" Garland concurred. At first, he even wanted Mag to narrate and Milo to write it down before writing it into a script. Then, Mag said he wanted to write it himself. However, he was also ready for Milo to edit it. In the end, they were both amazed when they received Boss Mag's script. The words flowed naturally, and the language was simple and lively. He made a recipe into an extremely beautiful essay. He had combined education and entertainment, which impressed Milo. If he hadn't witnessed Boss Mag's culinary skills and Mamie Restaurant's booming business, Garland would have had the urge to ask Mamie Restaurant to become a professional food reviewer. It was a pity to waste that talent. "Is the situation really going to deteriorate?" Milo asked softly again. The people in Rodua felt a little uneasy too. After experiencing a long period of peace, although the Roth Empire was very powerful now, people were still afraid whenever war was mentioned. Garland sighed and shook his head. "What do we normal people know? However, I've heard that dozens of orc tribes were massacred by us. This is most likely not going to end well. Let's pray for ourselves." Mag received a letter from the Perfect Foods editorial department, which notified him that they had published his eggplant with garlic sauce in advance. Mag didn't have any opinions about that. Just as Garland and his team had judged, the current situation was tumultuous. Nobody knew what could happen tomorrow. Whether it was for monetary benefits, or for the magazine's people's ideals, Mag could accept the early publishing of the tutorial. Furthermore, he also hoped that the eggplant with garlic sauce's tutorial would bring him more religious points. After reaching the peak on the path of a knight, he could only attempt it on the path of a chef by spreading good food now. A tumultuous situation was unfavorable to spreading good food. Who would care about good food when they could die at any time? The most important thing was to stay alive. "I still have to work harder to maintain the world's peace." Mag could hear the customers' worried conversations even when he was frying dishes in the kitchen. If you have problems with this website, please continue reading your novel on our new website mythanks. Although Chaos City was a neutral city, once the racial war broke out, no party could remain absolutely neutral and stay out of the war completely. Father, when can we go out to play? Like the time we went to the island. I like the feeling of dressing up as another person. After the lunch service was over, Amy went over to Mag, who had just taken off his chef's suit and sat down, and looked at him expectantly. Does little Amy want to go on a long vacation? Mag looked at Amy smilingly. I do. Amy nodded her little head. All right. Father will sort out our schedule, and see when I can bring you and Annie out for a holiday, or set up a small restaurant in another place for a short while. Mag nodded with a smile. The little one rarely had a school break. He should indeed bring her out to play. Amy touched her forefingers together, and hesitantly said, "There's one more thing I wonder if Father will agree." "What is it, little Amy?" Mag asked softly. Amy looked up at Mag, and whispered, "I haven't seen my friends for a long time. Jessica said that teacher Luna had prepared a lot of delicious food for them, and they also had a place to stay now. I would like to visit them. Can you make some scrumptious food for them, please?" Mag looked at the gleam glittering in the little one's eyes, and couldn't help feeling touched. Even though the little one had been busy with magical cultivation and the restaurant's matters recently, she was still the little cutie who cared for her friends. "Of course. Father will go with you. I will take the kitchenware along and barbecue for the children." Mag nodded smilingly. "Fantastic. I love you, Father." Amy jumped up happily, hugged Mag, and kissed him on his cheeks. "Then I will go and prepare for it. You and Annie go and play first." Mag patted Amy's head smilingly before getting up to go to the kitchen. Half an hour later, Mag carried 2 grills, 1 ice cream machine, and a food crate full of ingredients, and went out with Amy and Annie. Amy told Annie about the time that she wandered on the streets along the way. However, the sad experience sounded fun and adventurous when Amy said it, as if all the dangers and difficulties were simply small issues not even as important as a pancake. Annie listened quietly. She would sometimes smile, frown, or pat Amy's with sympathy. Although she still couldn't speak, she could already fully understand the common tongue. The horse-drawn carriage stopped, and the coachman said, "We've arrived." Mag flipped the carriage's covers, and walked out. Looking at the brand new greenhouse and walls that were covered in drawings, a smile appeared on Mag's face. This orphanage looked just like a kindergarten. The bright but not glaring colors, architecture, and those childish wall murals gave people the sense of thriving vitality. It was obvious that Luna had indeed put in a lot of effort into giving the children a new home. Chapter 1986. Are we allowed to do so? Meanwhile, the Foundation also provided certain help to those children whose parents were still around. The City Lord's castle provided them with cheap rental housing that was vacant, and let them stay almost free of charge. The City Lord's castle was also solving the adults' employment issues enthusiastically, so they could at least survive. "Thank you." Mag gave the coachman who helped him offload the kitchenware 2 silver coins. The extra silver coin was the tip. "Thank you." The coachman kept the silver coins with surprise, and quickly expressed his gratitude. He couldn't even earn that much money in a day usually, so he helped to carry things into the orphanage before leaving. "Amy, you are here." A small figure ran over. It was Jessica. I brought Father along to make a nice barbecue for all of us." Amy nodded. "Hello, Uncle Mag," Jessica greeted Mag. "Did my little friend Jessica and Amy arrange to play here today?" Mag said with a smile. Jessica nodded. "Yes. I haven't seen my buddies for quite some time too. Big sister Annie." Jessica went forward to hug Annie. After playing together for a whole day, they had already become good friends. All the children who were playing in the yard stopped, and looked at Mag and the rest standing at the door timidly. Their eyes held surprise and envy when they saw Amy and Annie. "Is it Amy?" I haven't seen her for a long time. Yes. Her little dress is so pretty, and she looks prettier too. I remember that uncle. He's Amy's dad. He brought us very delicious food previously. Is he bringing delicious food for us again? The children chatted softly among themselves. Their gazes landed on the shiny metal grills and the big crate at the side. Many children who had eaten Mag's braised chicken before already couldn't help salivating. Mag saw two staff members walking towards them, and smilingly said, "Little Amy, go and play with children first. I'll go talk to the staff." "Alrighty." Amy nodded obediently, held Annie's hand, and walked towards the children. "Hello, may I ask who you are?" a staff member who came up asked Mag warily, sizing up the grills and the big crate next to him. "Hello. I am Mamie Restaurant's boss, Mag. I hope to cook some food for the children today," Mag replied with a smile. "Our children are provided with 3 meals a day, and they already had their lunch. Thank you for your kindness, but this is against the orphanage's rules. Please return." The middle-aged female staff member rejected Mag firmly, leaving no room for negotiation. Mag wasn't annoyed when he heard that. This meant that the orphanage's rules and regulations were firmly enforced, and the staff members were very conscientious. If you have problems with this website, please continue reading your novel on our new website mythanks. Mamie Restaurant? The Mamie Restaurant on Aden Square. The young staff member looked at Mag with shock. "Yes." Mag nodded. The young staff member whispered in the middle-aged staff member's ear before smilingly saying to Mag, "Please wait a moment. I'll get the director over. We can't decide on this matter." "All right." Mag nodded, and watched that young staff member strode away. The middle-aged staff member looked at Amy and Annie, who were playing together with the children, with a smile on her face. She turned to say to Mag, "Are they your children?" "Yes." "Both of them?" Mag smilingly nodded. "What kind children?" the staff member praised sincerely. Judging from Mag and the two children's clothing and temperament, it was obvious that they were wealthy people. Although there were often kind-hearted people visiting the children recently, those rich people's children had an obvious difference and a barrier with the orphanage's children. It was difficult for them to play together. Mag watched Amy playing with the children with a smile. Who could have thought that she was once one of them? He would never let that happen again. Right then, a lean middle-aged man strode over to Mag, and excitedly said, "Hello, Mr. Mag. I am the orphanage's director, Anyurin. Teacher Luna always mentions you to me." Mag looked at Anyurin with a smile. "Hello, director. I brought my children here today to make some snacks and play with the children. I wonder if we are allowed to do so." Anyurin nodded with a smile. "Of course. You are the Foundation's important investor. You have contributed greatly to the cause that allows the children to live here, and the children would definitely love to try the culinary skills of Chaos City's top chef. You are too kind. I just did a little something within my abilities." Mag quickly shook his head. It seemed that Luna had been praising him to people outside. That middle-aged staff member looked at Mag differently after she heard Anyurin's words. Anyurin went to the center of the yard, and loudly laughingly said, "Children, this is Mr. Mag. He's a very formidable chef, and he's going to cook for us. Are you guys happy?" "Really? Happy? I've eaten this uncle's food before. It's super delicious." The children immediately nodded happily. Some of them, who had eaten Mag's dishes before, were even more excited. "You guys play first. I will call all of you over when it's done," Mag said as he opened up the 2 grills and set up the ice cream machine, also smiling. The middle-aged staff member brought a few female staff members over, and said to Mag, "Let us help too. Feel free to tell us what you need. The ingredients are already prepared in advance, but I will need help to distribute the food later," Mag said. "All right. The staff members retracted their hands that reached for the ingredients. Mag lit the charcoal up for the grills. Considering the fact that the children had just eaten not long ago, he took 30 minutes to light up the fire before opening the ingredients crate. He took out 2 sets of mutton kebabs and beef kebabs, and began to grill them skillfully. Over 100 kebabs filled his hands. Mag flipped them up and down and scattered out, creating amazing curves over the grill with sparks flying around. Wow! That's so awesome! The children and staff members watched him in a daze. Such superb skills were just like a dazzling performance. The beef kebabs and the mutton kebabs began to sizzle as they were grilled, and their aroma began to spread. After brushing on the sauce, everyone present made a gulping sound. Gulping sounds could be heard all around. The children stopped playing, and gathered around to watch the sizzling kebabs in Mag's hands. They couldn't help swallowing their saliva. This is simply too aromatic. Why is the meat's aroma so enticing? It's different from the meat I had before. Although I had 3 bowls of rice at lunch, I feel that I can eat again. The children were completely lost in the kebab's aroma. Anyaran wiped the saliva away from the corner of his mouth, and softly lamented, "He's indeed the legendary boss Mag. Just the aroma alone is irresistible." The staff members and children's expressions were no better. A few maidens already had little stars sparkling in their eyes. This young and handsome boss had amazing culinary skills. He was simply too outstanding. Amy stood at the side with a smile, and whispered, "I know everyone will like it. Nobody can resist the delicious food made by Uncle Mag." Jessica nodded in agreement. Mag walked between the 2 grills. Both sets of mutton kebabs and beef kebabs were completed at the same time, and were placed on 2 long metal plates. "Please give them to the children. Each child will have 1 beef kebab and 1 mutton kebab," Mag said to the staff members standing at the side with a smile. "All right." That middle-aged lady nodded, and yelled, "Children, line up like the meal times. Come and get the kebabs one by one." The children, who were squeezing together initially, instantly formed 6 lines, and the staff members began to hand out the kebabs to the children. Mag continued to grill the kebabs for the children. Leaving the distribution to the staff members allowed him to focus on cooking the food. This beef kebab is so delicious. This is my first time eating beef, so yummy, ah. I bit my tongue. It's simply too delicious. The sheep are so cute. They taste even better when they are grilled. I'm going to cry. This is too delicious. The children had already lost themselves to the kebabs. The orphanage made sure that they had 3 full meals a day. They were often given meat, which they hadn't dared to dream about in the past. If you have problems with this website, please continue reading your novel on our new website mythanks. However, the children had never eaten such delicious food before. The scrumptious kebabs had subverted all their imagination regarding good food. They had never had such delicious food before, not even in their dreams. Innocent smiles blossomed on the children's faces. That was the blissfulness that was rarely seen on their faces. "At least they are happy at this moment," Anyaran lamented inwardly. As the person in charge of this orphanage, he knew a little about each child. Miserable backgrounds and the experience of wandering on the streets made these children more timid and self-conscious. They acted tough, and were guarded against the world like a porcupine. They wouldn't show their gentleness and emotions to the world. Mag's grilling speed became faster and faster, keeping up perfectly with the staff members' distribution speed. Very soon, all the 500-odd children received the freshly grilled beef kebabs and mutton kebabs. The kebabs' pieces of meat were quite substantial. Even though there were only 2 kebabs for each child, they were enough for the children. Although the children would like to have more, they still had a sated smile. Mag gave the last kebabs to the staff members as a gesture of appreciation for their help. After declining a few times, the staff members accepted Mag's goodwill. After giving out kebabs after kebabs, and hearing the children's praises, they were already salivating. However, when they really tucked into the freshly grilled kebabs, all their thoughts were satisfied. The fat parts of the beef looked like small crystals. The sauce was well distributed. The surface of each piece was covered with grease. It looked very tempting. As soon as the beef entered their mouth, its slightly charred surface melted over their palate along with the garlic-flavored sauce. The garlic usually tasted sharp and overwhelming, but the flavor of this garlic sauce was very mellow and delicious. As they carefully chewed into the meat, it immediately fell apart in their mouth, releasing even more potent flavors of beef and garlic. They felt as if their taste buds were rejoicing from the extraordinary flavor, and they simply were unable to stop eating. This is simply criminal. It's too delicious. Anyurin took a deep breath through his nose. His emotions were a little out of control. Mr. Mag. Right then, a slightly surprised voice appeared from behind Mag. Mag turned around, and saw Luna and Vivian walking in at the door. He smilingly greeted, "Teacher Luna, Miss Vivian." Amy jogged over, looked up at Luna, and called out to her, "Teacher Luna." "Little Amy." Luna rubbed Amy's head smilingly as she looked at the unfinished kebabs in the children's hands and the two grills in front of Mag before saying to Mag, "Seems like you are making delicious kebabs for the children." Vivian peeped into the empty food crate, and lamented, "Tisk, tisk. It's a pity that we came too late. We didn't even get to eat one." "Teacher Luna, the kebabs made by this uncle are super delicious." "Yes, yes. It's really very delicious." The children smiled when they saw Luna, and they didn't forget to heap praises on Mag. Amy said she wanted to see her friends, so I brought her over, and made some kebabs for the children as well. Mag nodded while making an ice cream from the ice cream machine at the side, and passed it to Vivian. "The kebabs are just finished, but we still have ice cream." "Thank you, Boss Mag." Vivian was as happy as a child. She took the ice cream from Mag, and licked it with an increasingly bright smile. Meanwhile, the children's gaze landed on Vivian's ice cream. They began to feel curious about the thing that this pretty big sister was licking so happily. It's been a long time since the children were so happy. Mr. Mag's culinary skills are really amazing. Anyurin walked over, and looked at Mag with admiration. "You're being too kind." Mag felt that Anyurin's gaze was a little gayish, and he instinctively moved closer towards Luna before continuing, "I didn't prepare too many kebabs, but I still have ice cream for the children. Since we are all here, let's distribute the ice cream to the children first." "All right. Let us help too." Luna nodded. Mag turned on the ice cream machine, which had 4 choices, and began distributing the ice cream to the children. "Hush! Don't talk nonsense." Luna blushed and glared at Vivian. "See how loving he is. Furthermore, he supports your work so much, and is so nice to children. He also isn't clingy like those young men. He fits your mate's requirements perfectly." Vivian refused to give up. Luna looked at the children who were eating the ice cream happily. It was rare to see such innocent smiles on their faces, and all this was given to the children by Mr. Mag. Moreover, if it weren't for Mr. Mag's support, these children would have still been begging on the streets. Luna walked to Mag, and softly said, "Mr. Mag, thank you. I'm only doing some small things for the children." Mag placed the things at the side, and shook his head at Luna with a smile. He paused, and then continued, "The recent situation is rather chaotic. Is Teacher Luna going to return to Rodu?" Luna shook her head slightly. "No, I have to be present for many of the Foundation's affairs. It's more useful for me to be in Chaos City than to be in Rodu." Although her parents had been sending many letters to get her to return to Rodu for the past few days, and even made her brother set off to get her back, she had already decided to stay. She couldn't dictate or decide if the war would happen. It might be safer to return to Rodu, but many Foundation's projects would be in limbo if she left. The Hope School was in the midst of construction, and the recruitment of the teachers was in process too. The rate of recruitment became much faster after the re-employment of the experienced teachers as they were in charge of it. At the same time, she still had to check with the city lord's castle regarding the situation of the school-going age children. She had to let the children who couldn't get into Chaos School enroll in the Hope School. She could only be a young mistress who had nothing to do in Rodu, but in Chaos City, she was the bearer of many children's hopes. Mag nodded, and said, "If there is anything I can help, please tell me, and I will do all I can to help you." A young mistress from the Roth Empire coming to Chaos City to provide education for the poor. She even chose to stay at such a turbulent time. Her spirit was admirable. "All right." Luna smiled. She didn't know why, but the words sounded very comforting and reliable coming from Mr. Mag. Then, Luna and Mag chatted about the Hope School. Mag could sense that Luna had put great energy and hope into the Hope School. Compared to the Chaos School trying to expand its recruitment by a few hundred students, the Hope School was the real solution to resolve the problem of schooling for the children from the lowest rung of society. Vivian came over, and said to Mag, "Boss Mag, I am already a teacher at the Hope School. You can call me Teacher Vivian in the future." "Congratulations, Teacher Vivian," Mag said with a smile. He knew Vivian had intended to go be a teacher at the Chaos School. He didn't expect her to end up at the Hope School. "Thank you. I will go to eat grilled fish as a celebration tonight." Vivian had a smug smile. She had just received the admission notice from Luna. She had passed the experienced teacher's interview, which had nothing to do with Luna. The children were having a lot of fun, so Mag wasn't in a hurry to get them home. However, it was a little boring for him to stay in this orphanage, so he took the opportunity to make a trip to the brewery in the north of the city. If you have problems with this website, please continue reading your novel on our new website mythanks. He heard the machines humming as soon as he entered the factory. He naturally couldn't let Hannah run such a big brewery like her private workshop. He got 100 elves from the night elves, and put them in different positions in the brewery. The elves guarding the gates knew Mag, so they let him enter the brewery right away. "We need to brew alcohol scientifically. It's already outdated to brew alcohol based on experience. Only by brewing according to the scientific methods can we ensure that every single step is standardized, and every bottle that leaves the brewery is equally excellent. This is the so-called quality control. I have already come up with 3 different formulae for 3 types of rum with different textures." Mag heard Hannah's voice as soon as he reached the brewery's workshop. Mag retracted his steps slowly, and listened at the door with a weird expression. He didn't expect Hannah to behave exactly like a brewery director after receiving a couple of books on business management from him. Mag didn't want to disturb Hannah's work, so he decided to tour around the brewery. The system provided this brewery's blueprint. It was built exactly according to a modern brewery's plan. Only its architectural facade used this world's popular style, and looked a little like a European winery. "Boss, what are you doing here?" Soon, Mag heard Hannah's voice coming from behind. She quickly strode forward. "I heard they said you were here. Why didn't you come look for me right away?" Mag turned around to face Hannah in her blue overalls, and smilingly said, "I didn't dare to interrupt when I heard Director Hannah teaching about scientific discoveries, so I decided to walk around by myself first." Hannah chuckled embarrassedly. "Hee, I have only memorized a few paragraphs from the books, but it seems like the effects are quite good. They are looking at me differently now." Mag knew that Hannah had the talent to manage this brewery, so he then asked, "How are the machines running? When can we start mass production?" "The machines are super useful. Their output is so stable. I figured them out within 1 day. They are much easier to use than my previous rubbish." Hannah didn't conceal her love for the new machinery. "I have already debugged a few of my and my grandpa's rum formulae. The quality produced by the machines is even better. Furthermore, the quality is guaranteed." the probability of having a bad batch of rum is extremely low. However, to play safe, I will continue to debug and test in these 2 days. As long as the quality of the rum produced today is stable, we can officially start mass-producing big batches of rum tomorrow. Alright, I will wait for your good news then. Mag nodded. He was very satisfied with Hannah's efficiency. Wait a sec, boss. Hannah went into the cellar at the side, and came out with 2 bottles of rum. Hannah passed the rum to Mag, and said, I brewed them yesterday. Take them back and try them. I made them with base liquor, so it can be considered as 3 years old rum. Alright, I will bring it back and try it out. Mag accepted the rum. Words alone were no proof. He indeed wanted to check if the rum produced by Hannah with the machine still retained a high quality. However, many customers were still pining after the rum. Mag was waiting to give the customers one more choice after Hannah began mass production. Speaking of that, he still hadn't let his customers try his Mau Tai and whiskey yet. I have to work overtime tonight, thought Mag. Chapter 1989. You are pretty, so don't harbor too pretty thoughts. Alright, I'll bring you there tonight. That young missionary heaved a breath of relief, and had a relaxed smile on his face. Taking a look at the time, he said, why don't I bring you over now? We can have dinner at Mamie restaurant. That will do too. Seely nodded. As the Archbishop of the Church, Seely came to Chaos City from Rodu under the Pope's orders. It was to search for the Holy Maiden, and bring her back to the Holy See as soon as possible. Of course, the Pope had already told him about the Holy Maiden's special identity. As Krasua Inurian's disciple and the youngest champion of the Magic Caster tournament, this Holy Maiden had already displayed an unimaginable powerful strength at the tender age of 4. She also had a background that the Holy See had to be wary of. Krasua and Urian were complete lunatics. The only difference between the two was that Krasua restrained himself a little because of his status at the Magus Tower, while Urian always did as he pleased. It was completely impossible to use the Holy See to subdue them. However, the Holy Spirit had already given the instruction. Chaos was going to descend upon the world. The Holy See needed the Holy Maiden to rescue this world that was going to be turned upside down any time. Pining our hopes on a 4-year-old child, is the Holy Spirit right this time? Although it was a little disrespectful, Seely couldn't help thinking about that. Kanault was the Holy See's person in charge in Chaos City. He was a young missionary, but was already able to take charge because he grew up in the Holy See. The Holy See in the Roth Empire was gradually getting weaker. It even slowly lost its sense of existence outside the Roth Empire. The Holy See's branch at Chaos City was, in fact, only a small church. Including Kanault, the Holy See's personnel numbered only 3. They were mostly responsible for the daily prayers of the devoted, which weren't many people. Kanault had already been in Chaos City for 3 years, and this was his first time meeting someone sent by the Holy See. Even less expectedly, the person who came was actually the Lord Bishop. The bishop's status in the Holy See was just beneath the Pope's. His status was also very esteemed in the Roth Empire. However, he actually came to Chaos City from Rodu for a little girl. As a regular customer who occasionally went to Mamie restaurant for his meals, he knew a little about the little boss who was pampered by many. This made him even more puzzled. How did this little girl get in touch with the Pope and the Holy See? However, as a marginalized person who was posted out, even though it was nice staying in Chaos City, Kanault still wanted to have a good performance in front of the bishop so that he might have a chance to be reassigned back to Rodu. Lord Bishop, this Mamie restaurant is our destination. Mamie restaurant's boss, Mr. Mag, Kanault brought Seely to Mamie restaurant's door. It was already time for the meal service, so long lines were already forming at the door. The Holy See's bishop's identity wasn't useful here. Fortunately, Seely didn't mind, and he followed Kanault to the end of the line as he listened to Kanault talk about the interesting facts and rules of this restaurant. Right then, the restaurant's door opened a crack, and a roly-poly orange cat squeezed out, followed by a little half-elf with 2 high ponytails. It's her! Seely's eyes lit up. This little girl looked so exquisite as if she was carved out from a piece of jade. She was very tiny, but she already had a shocking presence of magic emanating from her. The information was correct. The magical aura on this little girl was at least 7th tier. A 4-year-old advanced magic caster had never been seen on the Norland continent before. Furthermore, Seely even sensed a hint of the familiar divine power on her. That was the special energy that the Holy See's unique cultivation system had described. She is indeed the Holy Maiden selected by the Holy Spirit. She's indeed extraordinary, Seely marveled softly. Yes. It's already good enough that she is cute. Most importantly, she is even so outstanding. She's not giving the ordinary people any chances. Quinault nodded in agreement. Little Amy's hair is tied up so prettily today, a young and beautiful maiden praised. Yes. Father tied it up for me. It's really pretty, right? Amy flicked her ponytails. Yes, indeed. I wonder if Boss Mag can tie my hair for me too, the maiden said with a blush. Amy looked at her for a moment before shaking her head seriously. Big sister, you are pretty, so don't harbor too pretty thoughts. That maiden laughed gently, covering her mouth. Although she was rejected, she was in an excellent mood. Little boss, what about me? Harrison joined in the fun too. Amy looked at him, and said, you are such a big person. You've got to be more mature. Little boss, why you have double standards? Harrison was a little aggrieved. I can't chit-chat with you guys, I gotta go walk the cat now. Amy gently kicked Ugly Duckling, which crouched on the ground as soon as it got out of the door, and softly lectured, move your butt quickly. You've got to run around Aiden Square once before dinner, otherwise you're not allowed to eat. O equals omega equals O. Ugly Duckling turned its head around in shock. A good Ingrid duck is neither too fat nor too thin. Quick, move it. I will be watching you from behind. Amy had a serious expression. She wouldn't accept no for an answer. Meow, meow. Even though Ugly Duckling looked unwilling, it still got up, and walked to the square under Amy's intense gaze. It jogged to gain momentum before leaping onto a tree, and climbed to the tree's top agilely. It then leaped over to another tree easily before leaping from tree to tree. It's so cold out here. The restaurant is much warmer. Amy stood at the door for 3 seconds before going back into the restaurant, and closed the door, leaving the customers wide-eyed. Didn't the little boss say that she's going to walk the cat? She even told Ugly Duckling that she was going to be watching. In the end, she only watched it for 3 seconds, she's a little scheming. I like it. The customers discussed the scene laughingly. This little episode made the wait much more interesting. Seely laughingly said, the little girl is really popular. Quinault nodded with a smile, and replied, yes. The little boss is adored by the customers. She's cute and funny. She will also teach those unruly customers a lesson occasionally. She's like the guardian angel of Mamie Restaurant. Seely turned around, and asked, seems like you know this restaurant very well. Do you often come here to eat? I will occasionally come here for my meals. Quinault looked slightly embarrassed. Mamie Restaurant wasn't a restaurant which he could afford to frequent. Chapter 1990. What's so good about war? As a missionary who was pursuing his interest, and had to inherit hundreds of millions of fortune if he quit being a missionary, he still preferred a carefree lifestyle. Chaos City was good. He could go home if he missed home, but he could keep a good distance normally. He was carefree and happy. Everything was great in Chaos City, but for this picky chowhound from Rodu, his biggest torture here was that he couldn't get to eat great food. This had once been one of the biggest reasons why he hesitated between going back home to inherit his family's fortune and staying put. And the appearance of Mamie Restaurant was just like a ray of light in Quinault's world. It gave him ample reason to stay. Boss Mag was simply too formidable. As a man who had eaten in all the big and small restaurants in Rodu, Connaught also thought that Boss Mag was the most impressive. In his heart, no restaurant could compare to Mamie Restaurant, and no restaurant could make him eat at it for a few months without getting sick of it and give him a new surprise once in a while. Even a pig would have feelings after being fed for a while, let alone a chowhound who had been fed for months. Hence, when the Holy See sent the Archbishop, and said they wanted to look for Little Boss, Connaught had been a little worried. However, the Holy See wasn't an evil organization, and the Pope was obviously a very kind old man. But the fact that the Archbishop personally travelled thousands of kilometers to look for the Little Boss was still shocking. Seelie didn't pay too much attention to Connaught's personal life. This Holy See's person in charge of Chaos City had outstanding ability, but he had a lazy character. He didn't like to manage the Holy See's affairs. That was why he applied to come to Chaos City. Connaught was afraid that Seelie would be bored in the line, so he introduced many Mamie Restaurant's interesting facts to him while they lined up. Seelie was also listening to him very seriously, especially to the parts about Amy. He would also ask questions occasionally. After lining up for 1 hour, Seelie finally couldn't help but ask, "Does this restaurant always have so many customers?" "Yes. Mamie Restaurant is the most popular restaurant in Chaos City, but lining up is a very fair system to decide the sequence to enter, and the atmosphere when we line up is great, so many customers are willing to line up to enter." Connaught nodded. He flicked a glance at the 3 customers in front of them, and smilingly said, "Don't worry, it will be our turn soon." While he was speaking, a few customers came out from the restaurant in good spirits, and the customers lining up in front of them walked. "We can go in now," Connaught quickly said, and walked in with Seelie. The cold was kept out once they entered the restaurant. Hundreds of customers were sitting in the intricately decorated hall. The anticipated boisterousness did not appear. What made Seelie even more amazed was that the customers were sitting all together despite their differing races. The elves were sitting together with the demons. The humans and the orcs were sitting together, and chatting away happily. The dwarves and the goblins were clinking their glasses, and drinking together. Everyone looked so friendly and harmonious. If he hadn't clearly known what had happened in the Norland continent's history, he would have even thought that the times had changed. "There are empty seats there, but we'll need to share a table with those 2 customers over there." Connaught found 2 empty seats next to the windows. They were vacated by the customers who had left earlier. However, 2 hunky orcs were sitting at that table too. "Will there be any problems?" Seelie looked at those 2 orcs, and frowned slightly. Connaught knew what Seelie was worried about, and laughingly said, "There'll be no problem. This is the Mamie Restaurant's rule and tradition. All the customers have to obey it as long as they are in Mamie Restaurant." Of course, Seelie wasn't afraid of those 2 orcs. He just didn't want to have a conflict in the restaurant, and bring trouble to the boss. The 2 of them sat down on the seats that had already been cleaned up. The orc tilted his head back to gulp down a big mug of beer before burping. He looked to his side at Seelie and Connaught, and gave them a friendly smile. Seelie wasn't quite used to this. He nodded slightly. "Are you guys the Holy See's missionaries from the Roth Empire?" The orc sitting next to Connaught was also looking at the 2 of them curiously. Although the Holy See had been trying to expand their influence outwards, even their influence in the Roth Empire had been deteriorating, so forget about expansion. The fact that the Chaos City's church only had 5 people had clearly demonstrated that. "Yes. We are missionaries." Connaught nodded with a smile. "I heard that your Roth Empire has just launched a sneak attack on us orcs, and massacred many tribes. Is it true?" that orc asked again. His expression was obviously becoming a little more hostile. Seelie had already heard about this matter from the Pope. The Roth Empire had dispatched its troops without any just cause, and started a war with the orcs. They had even done something as horrible as massacring the tribes. No matter how they looked at it, the Roth Empire was wrong, so he was hesitating as to how to answer this question. Why are you asking that? Can these two missionary friends affect and decide on such a matter? Most likely, they don't know what exactly happened, just like us. The orc sitting across from him patted his shoulder, and then smilingly said to Seelie, "My apologies. My buddy has a hot temper, but he didn't mean any harm. It's fine. If this matter is exactly as he said, then it should be the Roth Empire and us who should apologize." Seelie shook his head. He was surprised that this orc was being so reasonable, and he showed his opinion on this war at the same time. What's so good about war? I think that the king of the Roth Empire is crazy, that orc mumbled, and downed his beer in one go. He then kept quiet sulkily. "Excuse me, may I take your order?" Yabimiya came to Connaught's table with a smile. "Miss Mia, we want 1 helping of roast goose, 1 helping of red braised pork, 1 helping of the eggplant with garlic sauce, and 1 helping of the steamed fish head with diced hot red peppers, and please give these 2 gentlemen another mug of beer each," Connaught said with familiarity. "Thanks, brother." That orc smiled at Connaught. "You're very welcome." Connaught shook his head, also smiling. Seelie flicked a glance at Connaught, surprised at his familiarity. However, Seelie's gaze was quickly attracted by Amy, who was playing with the cat behind the counter. "It's the presence of divine power, and it's very intense. This little girl is indeed extraordinary," Seelie observed Amy. The Pope said he had given her the wings of God, but she had already concealed the divine power very well. If Seelie had been from the Holy See's upper echelons, he unfortunately most likely wouldn't have been able to see it, either. She could actually suppress the urge to summon the god's wings out to play at such a young age. This little girl's self-control surprised him too. Soon, the dishes were served and placed in front of Seelie and Connaught. Seelie's gaze was soon attracted by the delicious food in front of him. He retracted his gaze from Amy. Seelie's nose twitched, and he couldn't help praising, "They smell so good." Chapter 1991 Mamie Restaurant's Holy Child. This thing that was cut into pieces but still maintaining its goose form, was the roast goose. The rich aroma was tempting. The big fish head on the plate was covered by red and green chopped chili. The spicy umami aroma already assaulted his nose. Even though he was surprised that the fish head was being eaten alone, that didn't affect his urge to try it. The red-colored meat in the terracotta bowl was pork with layers of fat in it. Such meat with mainly fat was usually too greasy in Seelie's eyes. However, he didn't know if the chef colored the fatty meat with a red glaze. The rich meat aroma was so pure that it was irresistible. Seelie heaved a breath of relief when he didn't see MAPO1 in mapo tofu, but failing to find fish in the eggplant with garlic sauce made him feel cheated. "Please try them. They are very popular dishes in Mamie Restaurant." Connaught looked at Seelie respectfully. As part of the marginalized personnel of the Holy See, he usually didn't have many chances to dine together with an archbishop. Him. Seelie nodded, and popped a piece of the roast goose into his mouth with the chopsticks. Crunch! He could hear the cracking sounds when he bit into the crispy goose's skin, and underneath the goose's skin was the tender and juicy goose's meat that was soaked with the marinade. He could feel the meat's juice bursting in his mouth when he chewed. The taste buds were awakened immediately, and they began to welcome the crazy storm of scrumptiousness. Roast goose, steamed fish head with diced hot red peppers, mapo tofu. Seelie was slowly getting lost helplessly in all the delicious food. He couldn't imagine how someone could make food taste so delicious. These things that only were used to fill the stomach and replenish energy actually became a form of enjoyment. As someone who had gone through this, Connaught watched Seelie tuck in with a smile. He had behaved almost in the same manner when he had first discovered Mamie Restaurant. After some time, the two of them finished the food in front of them, and let out a satisfied burp before stopping. "I didn't expect that we could finish all that food." Seelie, who looked at the empty plates in front of him, thought in a shock. He had just been worried that they wouldn't have been able to finish that food, and would have wasted it. "Are you satisfied with your dinner?" Quinault asked Seelie nervously. It's good." Seelie nodded. His gaze swept across the several servers in the restaurant, and he said with surprise, "This restaurant's service staff are rather special. A pure-blooded golden dragon, a pure-blooded frost dragon, a great spatial magic caster of an unknown race, an 8th-tier magic caster of an unknown race, a 7th-tier elf." He couldn't imagine that this was actually the power of this restaurant's service staff. "Yes. Mamie restaurant's service staff are all so beautiful." Quinault nodded in agreement. "If you have problems with this website, please continue reading your novel on our new website mythanks. Seelie flicked a glance at Quinault. Quinault awkwardly explained, I was saying that Boss Mag had great taste." Trying to alleviate his embarrassment, Quinault suggested, "It's about an hour more before the restaurant closes, why don't we go out for a walk first?" "All right." Seelie threw a glance at Mag, who was busy in the kitchen. He had to get Mag's permission if he wanted to bring Amy away. This could also prevent a confrontation with Krasua and Urian. The Archbishop from the Holy See? What's he doing here? In the kitchen, Mag looked up at Quinault and Seelie, who were paying their bills, and were about to leave. It was easy to deduce their identity from their clothing. Ever since they had met the Pope at Rodu, and Amy had been given that pair of invisible wings, Mag had spent quite some time collecting information related to the Holy See. This old missionary with white hair should be Archbishop Seelie, who was the number 2 figure in the Holy See and someone ranked just under the Pope. Given the Archbishop's status, he shouldn't have appeared in Chaos City, and even lined up to eat at Mamie restaurant. Perhaps he has come for Amy? Mag frowned. The Holy See had existed for eons in the human race. Before the Roth Empire had been established, the sea had even once been the guiding light for the human race in the Dark Ages. It had been the symbol of light and justice. After the Roth Empire was established, the royal family intentionally diminished the Holy See's influence to truly grasp power, and that caused the Holy See to deteriorate as time went by. However, a starving camel was still bigger than a horse. The Holy See still had a very deep foundation in the Roth Empire. It even had a few 10th-tier powerhouses. Judging from the various resources, the Holy See had always had a very positive image in the humans' history. However, what Mag couldn't understand was why the Pope thought that Amy was the holy maiden chosen by the god. The Holy See was the human race's holy center, and Amy was a half-elf. This obviously wasn't reasonable. Indeed, after the dinner service was over, Quinault brought Seelie over, and knocked on the restaurant's door. Seelie looked at Mag, and said, "Mr. Mag, I am Archbishop Seelie of the Holy See. I have something to discuss with you about your daughter Amy. May I?" Mag looked at Seelie, and pondered for a moment before he opened the door, and said, "Come in." Amy was about to go upstairs with Ugly Duckling in her arms. When she saw Seelie and Quinault come in, she curiously asked, "Father, who are they?" "They have something to discuss with Father." "Little Amy, go upstairs with Annie first," Mag said. "All right." Amy nodded and followed Annie upstairs. Seelie watched Amy go upstairs, and praised, "What an obedient child." Mag poured 2 glasses of water for them before sitting down across from them, and calmly asked, "May I know the purpose of your visit here today, Archbishop?" Seelie looked into Mag's eyes, and said, "I know Mr. Mag has already met the Pope in Rodu. I came to Chaos City under the Pope's orders. My purpose is to bring the Holy Maiden to Rodu for her to accept the Holy See's canonization and baptism." Mag frowned after hearing that. "There is no Holy Maiden here. Seems like you guys have to come to the wrong place. Mr. Mag's daughter, Amy, has accepted the God's wings. She is the one chosen by the Holy Spirit and the Holy Maiden of the Holy See. It's the best choice for her to return to the Holy See. She will be the next pontiff." Mag looked at him, and mockingly laughed. Why should I believe your words? What if I say that your Pope is the one chosen by the god of cookery, and is the holy child of my Mamie restaurant, so it's best for him to come and serve dishes in my restaurant, and he will be the next manager if he does the job well. You, Seely's face tightened with anger. Boss Mag, Quinault, who was standing at the side, looked at Mag worriedly. Boss Mag was being too fierce. He even dared to make such comments. If there's nothing else, I will have to send you guys away now. Mag got up, and looked at Seely and Quinault boldly. Chapter 1992. Don't doubt this system's professionalism. As for the so-called pontiff, Mag didn't believe that Andrei would let a half-elf become the pope, and make generations of royals kneel under her feet when they ascended the throne. Mr. Mag, we don't mean any harm. This is the letter written to you personally by the Pope. Seely also got up, retrieved a letter from his space magic ring, and passed it to Mag. Mag didn't accept the letter. He looked at Seely, and calmly said, I have just said that Amy isn't whatever holy maiden. She's just a 4-year-old child. I want her to grow up happily, and that has nothing to do with the plan of becoming the pontiff. The ambience in the restaurant became tense instantly. Quinault's gaze jumped between the two other men. He secretly admired Boss Mag for having the powerful presence to go against the Archbishop as an ordinary man. At the same time, he was worried that the Archbishop would lose his temper. Seely looked at Mag quietly for a long time before putting the letter down on the table, and said in a grave voice, I shouldn't tell you about this matter, but you are being so stubborn. This world isn't as peaceful as you see. The devil has already crawled out from the abyss. Darkness is going to descend soon. The world needs light, and she is the one who can bring light to this world. The Holy Spirit has chosen her, and she has to undertake that burden. Ha! Mag laughed disrespectfully. If this world needs saving, let your so-called Holy Spirit do it personally. If your so-called Holy Spirit can only talk sh*t behind the scenes, let you guys, the so-called spokespeople of the Holy Spirit, do it. Don't you feel ashamed and ridiculous by asking a 4-year-old child to save the world, and placing this burden on her? Mag didn't bother to disguise his contempt in his smile. Quinault turned his face to the side with a blush after hearing that. He also had no idea that Seely came to look for Mag and Little Boss for this. Although the Little Boss was powerful and talented, just like what Boss Mag said, it was unbelievable and ridiculous to let a 4-year-old child undertake the burden of saving the world even if the Holy Spirit had indeed chosen her. Seely went quiet. Surprisingly, he wasn't furious. You are a good father. I can understand your anger, but this matter concerns the Norland continent. I hope you can consider it properly. After saying that, Seely turned around, and walked to the door. Quinault nodded at Mag apologetically before quickly turning around to catch up with Seely. There's no need for consideration. Amy will never go with you. Mag looked at Seely's back, and calmly said, if the Norland continent needs to be saved by a child, then there will be no point saving it. Seely's steps faltered before he pushed open the door and walked out. Quinault followed him out before closing the door gingerly. He followed after Seely. Even though he was just an intermediate magic caster, he could clearly sense Seely's rage and the unstable magical elements around him. Quinault had never expected that as an ordinary man, Boss Mag would have such courage when facing a great magic caster, and he rejected the chance of letting his daughter become the Pope in the future without any hesitation. Boss Mag is known for doting on his daughter. He most probably just doesn't want Amy to leave him, Quinault said softly. Foolish. Ignorant. Seely blurted out 2 words solemnly. Lord Archbishop, what do you plan to do now? Quinault carefully asked. He was a little worried that Seely would snatch the child. After all, they were in Chaos City, and Urian was living close by. I will stay in Chaos City for a while. The Holy Maiden's matter is important. We've got to bring her back to the Holy See, Seely said in a low voice. Yes. Quinault nodded. He didn't ask any more questions that someone at his level shouldn't ask. Mag tossed the Pope's letter into the trash can casually. No matter what flowery words that fellow said, he would never send Amy to the Holy See. The Holy See might pour more resources into Amy, but Amy would also most likely become an emotionless messenger of their god. This was what he couldn't accept. Furthermore, he was already a demigod now, and only lacked a recognition from God to become a complete god. Hence, the so-called Holy Spirit had already lost its mystery and unattainability in his eyes. He would even kill a god if they had designs on Amy. Mag kept the 2 water glasses, and was going to go study up on the brewing when the doorbell rang again. Again. Mag frowned. He opened the door to take a look. It wasn't Celie and Quinault at the door, but Elizabeth in a frost-long dress. Elizabeth? Did you leave something behind in the restaurant? Mag looked at her with surprise. No, I came to resign and bid farewell, Elizabeth said to Mag in a cold voice. Resign? Yes. Thank you for taking care of me. I'm leaving Chaos City to look for my father. Elizabeth nodded. Mag looked at Elizabeth. He had saved her from Dragon Island, and it was purely an accident that she ended up working in the restaurant. However, after working and eating together for this period of time, they definitely formed a friendship. Besides, Rankster might not be alive. He disappeared in the place where the Great Old One had escaped from its seal. The probability of him surviving wasn't high. However, after interacting with each other during this time, Mag knew a little about Elizabeth's character. She wouldn't change her mind once she made it up. Furthermore, this had been her obsession for years. Have you talked to Mia and the rest? Mag asked. I left a letter to Mia. I didn't tell the rest. Elizabeth shook her head. I'm not good at saying goodbye. Mag said to her smilingly, you don't have to resign. Mamie Restaurant's doors will always open for you. Come back whenever you want. All of us will miss you. Elizabeth looked at Mag. That warm smile reminded her of her father again. She nodded and answered before turning around to leave. Wait a sec, Mag called out to her. He took out a silver ring from his pocket, and passed it to her. This is. Mag smilingly said, I didn't prepare any gifts. I made this ring personally with Amy and the rest a few days ago. It's not very pretty, but it's a token of my well wishes. I hope you will think of us when you see this ring. Thank you. Elizabeth wore the ring on her ring finger when she heard that before saying goodbye to Mag, and turned to leave. A giant snowflake appeared under her feet, and she disappeared from the dark square. System, are you sure that thing can locate her accurately? What if the battery died? Mag murmured inwardly. Can the host not doubt this system's professionalism? The ring has a basic solar-powered charging system. That ring not only has a tracking function, it also has an alarm that warns about low blood volume. If it weren't for the fact there was no internet here, it would have had all the functions of a watch phone. The system's smug voice sounded. Chapter 1993 A Hidden Mission, Open a Famous Tavern. The former was to locate Elizabeth when they needed to look for her. The latter was for him to receive an alert if Elizabeth was in a dangerous situation so that he could get there in time to save her life. Mag turned around, and walked into the restaurant as he thought. Elizabeth left, and the Holy See came looking for us. Why don't I bring Amy out to play for a period of time? Mag was about to close the door when a sharp whistle sounded, and a letter flew over from afar. It flew in through the door's crack, and Mag caught it. Mag flicked a glance at the Grey Temple's wax seal before closing the door, and opening the envelope. After a while, Mag put down the letter that was delivered urgently by the Grey Temple at night, and his expression changed slightly. A golden light flashed in the restaurant, and Irina, who just returned, looked at Mag's grave expression, and asked, "What's the matter? Did something happen?" News from the Grey Temple. Some of the military's senior courtiers were attacked. Their entire families were massacred and then burnt. Mag passed the letter to Irina. Irina schemed through it before looking up at Mag. Is this the Orcs' revenge? Or is Josh creating trouble again? Oster almost lost his home this time. He most probably didn't have the guts to go to Rodu to kill and burn. Apparently, the pro-war faction of the Orcs is rapidly shrinking now, and more people are joining Connie's pro-peace faction. They cannot even take care of their own problems, so they definitely aren't going to intensify the contradictions right now, Mag said with a grave expression. It's either Andre trying to find an excuse to start the war, or Josh deliberately creating trouble by exacerbating the situation. Irina put down the secret missive, and shook her head. The Giant Dragons and the Peace Alliance's joint statement should have arrived at Rodu by now. I don't think Andre would risk getting attacked by all the races by continuing his plans to start a war. That is unbearable to the Roth Empire. Mag looked at Irina, and said, seems like we need to make a trip to Rodu. I decided to close the restaurant for a month, and bring Amy and Annie to Rodu to look for Josh. Then, can I be the lady boss again? Irina looked at Mag smilingly. The kind that manages the money. If you are willing to, I don't mind setting up a small tavern at Rodu. Mag nodded smilingly. It's not good to go undercover every day with children. It's easy to move about with a proper identity. I think it's feasible. All right. We'll set off tomorrow. I'll go pack up. Mag nodded. He already had a rough plan for this Rodu trip. Ding! A sudden event has triggered a hidden mission: open a famous tavern. Could the host please open a tavern famous with the alcohol connoisseur in Rodu, and become the most famous tavern in Rodu? Mission advance reward: 1 recipe of the secret drunkard peanuts and 1 recipe of the pig ears salad have been released. As the mission proceeds, more rewards will be given. Congratulations for taking the first step to expand the restaurant, host. Just then, the system's voice rang in Mag's head. Looking at the 2 gleaming recipe experience bags in his mind, Mag was slightly taken aback. System, you have changed. You actually learned how to give a mission advance reward. Excellent, maintain this. Drunkard peanuts and pig ears salad were 2 great dishes that went well with alcoholic drinks. They were a perfect match with the tavern. Selling alcoholic drinks was, of course, the most important aspect of a tavern. Mag didn't want to open another Mamie restaurant. He wanted the customers to love the tavern because of its alcoholic drinks, and not because of the dishes, so he wanted the drinks to be the main focus. Were 2 dishes too little? No, it was already more than enough. Irina asked Mag, oh, yes, help me analyze this. Protests in a movement to burn the slave contracts have exploded in the wind forest in the past 2 days, but Helena didn't do anything to stop this movement. She isn't being her usual self. What do you think she is thinking? After pondering briefly, Mag said, there are 2 possibilities. The first is that Helena has already realized her direction and policy are wrong, and she decided to rectify her mistakes. She is going to be a good person from now on, and slowly turn the policy around. The second is that Helena deliberately loosened the policy, and allowed all the rebels to show themselves before she would give them a deadly strike and eliminate all opposing voices once and for all. Helena isn't that kind of person who will turn over a new leaf. I know very well how stubborn that old woman is. She's never going to admit that she was wrong. Irina shook her head with a frown, and said, then, she's most probably going to go after those protesters after the movement dies down a little. What she's going to do isn't important. What's important is what the Night Elves are going to do. In these times of upheaval, most of the elves are starting to lean towards the Night Elves emotionally. What's the most important is if we can expand the Night Elves quickly, and even topple Helena's ruling system, Mag said. Irina was thoughtful. As she walked to the staircase, she said, I'll go write a letter. Mag didn't rush to go upstairs. He still had many things to do tonight. Closing Mamie restaurant for 1 month was unprecedented since it had been open for business. The customers would definitely be in uproar. He also had to consider how to arrange the employees' leaves. Mana Hot Pot restaurant had already become many hot pot lovers' favorite, and could replace the customers' need for hot pot. Mia's ice cream shop had become another children's wonderland. The ice cream shop could operate all day long when Mamie restaurant was closed. During the period that the Mamie restaurant was closed, Mag intended to give all the employees a long break. If they didn't have anywhere to go, they could stay at the ice cream shop or help out at Mana Hot Pot restaurant. The restaurant would be closed, but it wouldn't be sealed completely. After all, it was the entrance to the only teleportation portal between the Moon Nation and the Norland continent. Mag prepared to leave a set of keys to Babla and Yabimiya each. First, it was to allow the Moon Nation's people to come and go. Second, it was to allow them to enter Mamie restaurant if they encountered an unexpected situation. Mamie restaurant had a 9th tier defensive ability now. Usual attacks couldn't threaten the people in the restaurant at all. Mag took out the notice board from the back of the counter, and wrote a notice of a business break. The reason was very proper. Bringing the children out for a vacation and searching for ingredients during their term break. Be back in a month. Then, Mag took out a photo stone, and went into the kitchen. Early on the next morning, before any customers came to line up, Mag already hung the notice onto the door. Then, Mag hung a giant screen at the door, and began to play the cooking tutorials in a loop. 1. Of course, all of them had seen that news at the door. Boss, will the ice cream shop still be open? Yabimiya's eyes were a little red. Obviously, she didn't sleep well last night after receiving Elizabeth's letter. Mag smilingly replied, taking a break for 1 month is giving all of you a holiday for 1 month too. All of you can return home or go out to play. Mia, you can decide for yourself if you want to keep the ice cream shop open. I will return home for a month, then. I happen to have some matters to handle back home. Camilla stretched out lazily. She felt very light-hearted when she realized that she didn't have to wake up early every day to chop ingredients, and could sleep in for a period of time. I'm also busy saving the world recently. It's great that I don't have to run around. Babla nodded with similar sentiments. The city lord's castle had been looking for her frequently to discuss spell formations recently. As the number 1 contact person of the Moon Nation, she had been worried sick for this world. Jane hesitated for a moment, but she didn't say anything in the end. Then, I will keep the ice cream shop open. The children like it, and the ladies who are not busy can help out at the shop, Yabimiya said with a smile before looking at Jane. Jane, come and help me at the ice cream shop. Jane nodded with a smile too. Anna and I can go help out at the ice cream shop too, Shirley said. And me. Gina raised her hand, and revealed a gentle smile. The children seem to like me. I'll go over whenever I am free, Angela said smilingly. She had already made her plan for this month. Her research was done, and it was time for her to formally approach the succubi in Chaos City. What about me? Hannah asked, biting into the yushao. I'll give you 1 month's time. When I return, I hope the rum from the brewery can be ready for sale, Mag replied smilingly. I'm talking about my meals. Hannah stopped chewing and blinked. Solve it yourself. Mag took out a money bag, and pushed towards Hannah. Sigh. It's hard to go 1 month without soybean milk and yushao. Hannah sighed, and continued chewing the yushao. Ferris looked around her, and asked perplexedly, oh, yes, where's big sister Elizabeth? Yes, we didn't see her from the start, Gina added. Mag smilingly replied, Elizabeth started her holiday mode in advance. Seems like she has received the notice in advance, said Camilla. Everyone was thoughtful. They just took it that Elizabeth had something on, and went on leave in advance. They didn't pursue it. If you have problems with this website, please continue reading your novel on our new website mythanks. Yabimiya flicked a glance at Mag with surprise. All of them bade their farewell, and left after breakfast. Mag gave the restaurant's keys to Babla and Mia. "Goodbye, big sisters. I will miss you guys." Amy stood at the door, and waved goodbye to all of them. "Boss, did she come to bid farewell to you?" Yabimiya stayed back to ask Mag. "Yes. She came to resign, but I didn't accept it. I kept her position, and she can come back whenever she wants to." Mia nodded and patted Yabimiya's head. Smiling, he said, "Don't worry. She's only going out for a break. Someone like her is never going to stay put in one place. She belongs to the world out there." Him. Yabimiya's twisted expression relaxed, and a bright smile reappeared on her face. "She said she would come back to visit us frequently." Mag smilingly said, "That's right. Pace yourself with the ice cream. Don't tire yourself out. Take one day off every week, and give yourself and the girls a break." "Don't worry, boss. I will do a good job." Yabimiya nodded with a serious look. "Goodbye, Amy and Annie." Yabimiya hugged Amy and Annie before leaving. "So, father, where are we going now?" Amy shut the door, and looked at Mag expectantly. Annie also had an expectant expression. She had heard a lot from Amy about their previous trip, such as setting up a new restaurant. "This time, we're going to Rodu. Go upstairs and pack what you would like to bring along with you. Then, we will get ready to set off," Mag smilingly said. "Fantastic. Rodu is fun, but I haven't gotten to play everything even after visiting twice," Amy said happily before she ran upstairs to pack her stuff. Annie stood at the floor-to-ceiling, and looked out for a while before she turned around, and gestured to Mag about the situation out there. Mag walked over to the floor-to-ceiling windows to look at those sighing customers, and smilingly consoled Annie, "It's fine, Annie. The customers might have some trouble getting used to it at first, but they will look for somewhere else to eat when they are hungry." Of course, he did feel a little guilty. He could completely understand the customers' unease when their meals were cut off suddenly. However, things happened out of the blue, and to make sure that these customers could have more time to enjoy their food in the future, this Rodu trip was inevitable. If Josh was indeed in Rodu currently, and was attempting to escalate the situation and cause a big racial war, Mag had to stop him and kill him. Annie nodded thoughtfully. Irina came downstairs, and asked Mag, "Are we setting off right now?" "Yes. We still have to find a venue after we arrive at Rodu. If things go smoothly, we can finish all the preparation by today." Mag nodded. Meow Ugly Duckling, which was lying on the countertop, got up and stretched before flipping over to lie on the countertop again. It revealed its round tummy, and started to snore comfortably. "Ugly Duckling, are you going to stay in the restaurant alone by yourself?" Amy said to Ugly Duckling, which was still sleeping on the countertop, as she came down. "Meow." Ugly Duckling jumped up in a shock. It lost its footing, and fell to the floor. Fortunately, Amy reacted quickly. She kicked it toward the wall, and successfully prevented it from falling to the floor. Ugly Duckling flipped over, and got up on the floor. It shook its head, and called out to Amy, "I really have to thank you. You don't have to be so polite." Amy reached out and rubbed the cat's head. "Let's go. Come over, I'll bring you all away." Irina waved to the three of them. A golden light flashed underneath their feet, and they all disappeared from the restaurant. Soon after, a purple-striped griffin took off from the north of the city, and flew out of the city. After picking up 4 people at the top of a mountain beyond the city, it continued to fly north towards Rodu. Chapter 1995 Princess, you are not thinking escaping again. Jeffrey had officially declared her the Moreton family's only successor a few days ago, and started to give her complete control, and let her take over the family's business. Furthermore, Jeffrey groomed her personally, and gave her support in all aspects, which allowed her to quickly establish her authority in the family's business and swiftly take over. However, as a newbie who had just started on business management in the past few months, even though she had tried very hard to digest this information, she still felt inadequate. She didn't sleep for the whole night. After settling some matters in the morning, she decided to go to Mamie restaurant to chat with Mag. Even just drinking a cup of tea with him could make her feel a little better. The horse-drawn carriage stopped, and the coachman informed, "Missy, we have arrived at Mamie restaurant." "All right." Gloria alighted from the horse-drawn carriage. Taking a 1-month break. 3 minutes later, Gloria stood at the restaurant's door, and looked at the notice at the door with a shocked and disappointed expression. Mamie restaurant closed for business without any warning, and for a whole month at that. Gloria felt an unexplainable disappointment, as if a very important person had suddenly embarked on a long journey without saying goodbye to her. After standing at the restaurant's door for a long time in silence, Gloria sat down at the bench outside the restaurant for a long time too. About 30 minutes later, Gloria suddenly stood up, and turned around to look at the Mamie restaurant's gleaming signboard under the sunlight with a bright smile on her face. Mr. Mag said before that only we ourselves could decide how to lead our lives. Since I have chosen this route, I will just continue on it. Gloria turned to walk to the horse-drawn carriage. She looked relaxed and confident again, and the tiredness on her face went away. Gloria got onto the carriage, and instructed, "Go to the blue suede factory." Abraham stood next to a horse-drawn carriage, watched the servants carry all kinds of stuff onto a flying steed, and sighed, "Sigh, what's going on? Why are we having a war when we are having such good times?" A steed came from afar. "Here it is." Abraham's eyes lit up, and he looked at the knight rushing over from afar expectantly. The knight stopped in front of him. Abraham looked at the empty-handed knight and frowned. "Where's the breakfast?" "My lord, Mamie restaurant is closed." The notice hanging on the door said the restaurant was closed for 1 month because his children were having a term break, and they were going away for a vacation and looking for ingredients, that knight replied nervously. "There's something like that." Abraham's eyes widened. He didn't expect that the last breakfast before he left Chaos City would simply be gone like this. However, Boss Mag dotes on Little Boss the most. It's natural that he would bring the children out during the term break. We just have to pity those customers who are addicted to Mamie restaurant. Abraham sighed, but he couldn't hide the smile on his face. If you have problems with this website, please continue reading your novel on our new website mythanks. Hehe. I can't eat it, but neither can any of you. I feel better when I think like that. Abraham got into the horse-drawn carriage, and said, "Let's go." "My Lord Duke, what about your breakfast? What other food in Chaos City is worth eating other than Mamie restaurants?" "I'll eat when I return to Rodu." Abraham's voice sounded from the carriage. "My lord, Mamie restaurant suddenly declared that it would be closed for 1 month. Boss Mag is bringing the little boss out for a vacation and searching for ingredients," Dicus mentioned after he finished reporting to Michael. "Closed for a month." Michael looked up from the stacks of information, and looked at Dicus with surprise. "Yes. This is the first time that Mamie restaurant is closed for such a long time." Dicus nodded before saying with admiration, "Only a highly skilled chef like Boss Mag would dare to close for 1 month during the restaurant's most popular period just to bring his children out for fun." Michael's gaze went back to the stacks of information in front of him again. He believed that Mag didn't just bring the children out for fun. Mag closed for business today after Michael received the news of the massacre of the Rodu's military's officials' families yesterday. However, Michael didn't pursue it. It wasn't up to him to dictate how Alex and Irina do their jobs, let alone ask them to report to him. "Oh, yes. My lord, the morning report from the Twilight Forest today. Oster declared that the Og tribe had caused the Rodu massacre, and issued a stern warning to the Roth Empire. If the Roth Empire dared to invade the Twilight Forest again, they would suffer an even more deadly attack. Dicus took out an expedited letter from a stack of missives. That moron! Michael took the missive, and read it with a frown. You don't think that the Orcs have done it? Dicus was surprised with Michael's reaction. The Orcs had the most motivation and ability to do this, and Oster had admitted to it himself. Although Oster isn't too bright, in the current circumstances where he couldn't take care of himself, how could he have the ability to organize a massacre in Rodu? Then, why did he admit that? This moron most probably wanted to reabsorb those tribes that had left the pro-war faction, so he forced himself to proclaim that. Anyway, looking at the current situation, the Roth Empire most probably wouldn't take the risk of being attacked by all the races to start a war on the Twilight Forest again, Michael said gravely. However, with this proclamation, the Roth Empire's people will be agitated, and Andrei will have a legitimate reason to deploy troops. It won't be difficult to take down Og tribe if the Roth Empire strikes again. Dicus also frowned after hearing that. Michael put down the missive, and said to Dicus, "Make some preparations. I want to write a letter to the Fok tribe. All the pro-peace factions have to handle matters calmly now. The Norland continent will descend into a new racial war once the situation goes out of control. By then, nobody will be able to do anything to salvage the situation." Vanessa, who was sitting by the window, put down the gourmet magazine, picked up a hand warmer, and looked at the bare branches as she worriedly said, "I heard that something big happened out there. I wonder what the situation is now? It's so worrying." Lola placed a small plate of snacks in front of Vanessa, and whispered, "Princess, you are not thinking of escaping again?" "Nonsense! Do I look like such an insensible person?" Vanessa widened her eyes, and pretended to look fierce, but only her eyes looked bigger, and she looked cuter instead. "Of course not." Lola nodded. "Lola, this snack box is big and round. Doesn't it look like a hot pot?" However, there were no walls between these squares, and their functions weren't drawn out reasonably. Apart from the few areas where the rich and powerful lived, the other places looked a little messy. Romo Street was a food street near the palace and all government agencies' offices. However, it was also rather miserable to describe it as a food street when it had just a few scattered restaurants and taverns. A rotund boss stood in front of the restaurant's door with his back leaning against the door's pillar, yawning, and said, "The lords didn't come and eat recently. Our business is bad. Don't talk about that. I heard something huge happened at the court recently, and all the lords are terrified. How can they be in the mood to come and eat? They don't even come to drink." The seductive lady boss of the tavern next door took a puff of white smoke from a silver tobacco pipe, and then blew the white smoke out with a glazed gaze. "Isn't it so? This year's business is bad. The tavern next door has switched hands again. Is that already the fifth owner? It's all because of those newly opened restaurants, taverns, and brothels on Lambay Street that lured all the lords away. If this goes on, our Romo Street will be over." The bosses of the other shops came out to vent their frustrations too. Business was bad, and the bosses were worried, but they couldn't do anything about it. Not too far away, two people walked over slowly. "Mr. Hades, Lambay Street is the most popular in this area. Its location and business atmosphere are the best too. Especially in these 2 years, Lambay Street has become the first choice for the lords in the court for entertainment. Are you really not going to consider those several shops that you saw earlier?" An agent with a beard strongly encouraged Mag, who had disguised himself. "The location is good, but the layout and size are not what I require," Mag rejected calmly. Mag began to look for the shop to establish the tavern in as soon as they arrived in Rodu. They didn't really come to set up a shop here. Their most important objective was to look for Josh and gather information, so Mag chose the area where the court officials gathered. If Josh returned to Rodu, he wouldn't continue to stir trouble after his first plan failed. Compared to the ordinary citizens, it would be easier to create bigger trouble when he targeted the court officials. Moreover, judging from the methods he used to control the military and start the war, he might have more hidden methods. Let the professionals do what they are good at. Mag immediately went to an agency, and began looking at shops. Lambay Street was indeed very boisterous, but it was also eliminated by Mag because it was too boisterous. In contrast, Romo Street behind Lambay Street was much quieter, and there were more shop choices. Mag was satisfied with it. Seeing that Mag was indeed not interested, that agent stopped promoting the shops on Lambay Street. He switched his focus, and smilingly said, "This is Romo Street, which is also a very famous food street in this vicinity. There are a lot of restaurants and taverns on this street." Mag listened to his introduction, and nodded every now and then to indicate that he was indeed listening while his gaze was sweeping the shops on the street. He could see that it had indeed been prosperous before. Yes, in the past. There were many shops on both sides of the streets that were closed or being let out, and it was obvious that there was no one to take over them for a long time. Meanwhile, the bosses and employees were chatting and sunning themselves at the doors of those shops that were still open. Judging from the employees' relaxed attitude and the boss's ill-concealed worried looks, the business atmosphere here had deteriorated to the point where it was already very difficult to continue their operation. "See, Big Head is bringing another idiot here to look at the shops. I wonder if he will be swindled." The tavern's lady boss looked at Mag with a glazed gaze and a mocking smile. "Look at his silly look, and you know he is a noob. He will definitely pay in a hurry as long as you say some flattering words to him, and he will get himself in deep trouble from that point onwards. Hee hee. We'll have another buddy in trouble soon." All the bosses were also looking at Mag laughingly. Although there was a hint of schadenfreude, they didn't have too much malice. "Mr. Mag, there is a tavern looking for a new owner in front. Let's go over there to check it out. The furnishing and layout fit your requirements perfectly." Fitch, the agent, brought Mag to a nearby shop that was named Link's Tavern. Mag stood at the door and looked in. It was a two-story building. It was tall enough, and it had some space between it and the shops at its side. Its signboard and the rest were all very ordinary. Of course, all this was not important to Mag. Business was excellent for this tavern, but something happened to the boss at home, and he couldn't carry on with the business, so he had to give up the tavern. "If you want, you can simply buy it right away and do a simple renovation. Your business will definitely thrive." As Fitch spoke, he took out the key, and opened the door. It had been a long time since a shop had been rented or sold on Romo Street. More and more businesses had moved out from here, and Romo Street became more and more quiet. He was simply trying to promote it to Mag. As long as he wasn't a noob, he wouldn't come to rent or buy a shop at a place like this. Of course, Mr. Hades looked rather noobish, so Fitch decided to try and see if he could make his first business deal this month. Him. Mag let him boast, and only gave him a courtesy reply. One couldn't even trust the punctuation marks in a property agent's words. Pushing the doors open, they saw an ordinary tavern. The tables and chairs were casually laid around. There were a few empty liquor bottles on the shelves. It had nothing special, but it had nothing particularly bad, either. Of course, being ordinary was a restaurant's original sin. Mag scanned around before turning to Fitch, who was about to continue his recommendation, and said, "This one will do. Get the owner here to discuss the price." "Hey!" Fitch was stunned, but he quickly regained his wits, and said with uncertainty, "Mr. Hades, do you mean you want to buy this shop?" "Yes, I think it's very appropriate." Mag nodded. All right. Please give me a moment, I will go get this shop's owner right now. We can get the contract done today." Fitch tried his best to control his expression, and quickly used his sleeve to wipe clean a stool. He invited Mag to have a seat, and then swiftly strode out of the door. "I didn't expect to really meet a fool." Fitch was ecstatic. As an agent trainee who had been practicing for 2.5 years, he still hadn't gotten the grasp of the golden lying skills in the agent's world. His deals were all closed based on luck. This customer didn't seem to know the trade very well, yet he was extremely picky. He belonged to the difficult-to-handle type. Even though the shops on Romo Street weren't as expensive as the shops on Lambay Street, they weren't cheap, either. The commission could last him half a year. Wow! Fitch gave Mag a thumbs up with admiration. He still got his commission, but he had indeed underestimated Mr. Hades. This was no noob. He was an experienced, wily old fox. Mag looked at the title deed in his hands, and thought deeply, this place is much cheaper than Chaos City. Why don't I buy the entire street? Mr. Hades. Fitch took his money, and was about to make his escape. Mag looked up, and asked Fitch, how many properties on Romo Street do you have? Hey! Fitch gaped. Within half a day, the news of a mysterious fool buying up half of Romo Street spread throughout Romo Street's shops. Mr. Hades, you really have the outlook. I believe Romo Street will prosper and earn you tons of money under your brilliant operation. Fitch looked at Mag with a glow. He had sold more properties in this half a day than in his entire career. It was a total of 100 properties. Just his commission alone was over 2 million copper coins. He could quit, return home, build a house, and get a wife right now. I believe so too. Mag tidied up that big stack of title deeds, and placed them in the box at the side. Of course, he didn't need to have so many properties to open one tavern. However, the incident of the prices of all the properties at Aden Square's southwestern part skyrocketing after Mamie Restaurant became a raging business was still fresh in his mind. He wouldn't be him if he didn't buy the entire street when the prices were low now. Then, I wish you all the best. I will make my leave now. Fitch bowed deeply to Mag, and then skipped away happily, feeling as joyful as a little deer. Of course, the first thing he was going to do was to quit. This was to prevent this idiot from suddenly regretting, and coming to look for him. Interesting. Mag smiled as he watched Fitch go away. Then, he turned around and closed the door. The nearby tavern's lady boss, Effie, removed her pipe, and said with disbelief, is he that idiot who bought up half of the street? Although his brain isn't really functional, he is truly loaded. Over 100 properties. It would have cost over 100 million even if they had been cheap, the fat boss munching on sunflower seeds at the side said with envy. Tisk, tisk. I wonder, why did he buy so many properties? I'm really curious about that. All of them were having discussions, expressing their great interest in their new neighbor. Mag didn't stay in the tavern for too long. He was mostly discussing with the system about the tavern's renovation. The 500 square meters big tavern didn't need a big kitchen compared to a restaurant, and its cellar could be placed on the second floor. That layout could accommodate many customers. Let's do it that way. Keep it simple and rugged so there's an ambience when they drink hard liquor. After Mag ascertained the renovation style, he went out to look for a construction team. Of course, the renovation was left to the system. However, since there were so many neighbors around him, he had to pretend to go look for a construction team. Hi, hello. It's a pleasure to meet you, new neighbor. As soon as Mag walked out, a beautiful young woman came forward smilingly, and extended her hand to him. I am Eofi, the lady boss of that Titan Tavern over. Eofi. Mag threw a glance at Titan Tavern opposite which had a giant's renovation style and shook the lady boss's hand courteously. Hello, I am Hades. I intend to open a tavern too. The smell of perfume and tobacco mixed together was surprisingly nice. However, he still preferred the natural smell of young maidens' bodies. Oh. You can ask me if you want to open a tavern. I have very good techniques. Eofi got closer, and her voice became softer. She was about to blow air into Mag's ear. All right. Let's have a good chat whenever we are free. Mag moved to the side to avoid it before saying his farewell and leaving. Ah! Do you think you can escape from my grasp like this? Eofi watched Mag's retreat, and her gaze lingered on his butt for a while. Her smile got brighter, and she whispered to herself, his figure is not bad. The construction quickly entered, and removed everything from the tavern. Then, there was nothing. That very night, Mag moved into the tavern that was completely renovated by the system. The main color of the tavern was brown, and it was basically decorated with natural wood. Its style was simple and rugged. There was very little separation, and there was a big liquor cabinet behind the bar. Next to the bar was a small kitchen that was a few square meters big. It was used to make dishes to go with the drinks. Apart from a cellar, the second floor was their living area as usual. Mag didn't make any changes to the property's exterior, but he removed the original signboard and some over-the-top decorations, and put up the new signboard, Saipan Tavern. There was no meaning. He simply felt that this name was catchy. Saipan. Saipan. Right, here came the feeling. He felt it would get really popular. As for a refreshing name like II Tavern, it was best not to give people any chances to make a connection in such a dangerous place like Rodu. Irina sized up the completely redone tavern, surprised, and said, "It's all done in one day." "I am rather talented in this aspect," Mag said smilingly. "Shameless." A row of small words drifted across his mind. "It's rather nice. This position will be mine in the future." Irina sat on a bar stool behind the bar counter. This place was in charge of the tavern's finances, and she could see the entire tavern from this position. This was, without a doubt, the center position. "Ugly duckling, you will crouch here, and be the lucky duck one without any emotions." Amy placed Ugly Duckling on the bar counter, and nodded with satisfaction. Meanwhile, Annie was extremely interested in the utensils meant for mixology on the bar counter. She handled them carefully with curiosity in her eyes. "Do you want to learn about mixology, Annie?" Mag asked smilingly. This set of mixology utensils was strictly for display. He was only going to sell finished alcohol. He wasn't going to sell cocktails, nor would he perform bartending for the customers. Annie nodded before pointing to that mixology set, and used hand gestures to signal. "I have seen bartenders on the tablet. They are very suave." "I see. Then, you can learn it for fun," Mag said with a smile. He bought a set of raw ingredients and liquors for mixology from the system, and found some bartending tutorial videos for Annie to learn from. The other children played with mud, while their children played with liquors, but there didn't seem to be a big difference. Both were a kind of playing, and were what the children were interested in. Mag looked at the two little ones, who couldn't wait to try out mixing the cocktails, and reminded them, "You may play with them, but you cannot drink the finished cocktails. Of course, I can be the tester to try the taste for you. I'm still the professional in this area." Knock. Knock. Right at this time, a knock came at the door. Mag opened the door, and a weak and delicate body fell into his embrace. She even wrapped her arms around his neck, and said coquettishly, "Mr. Hades, you're so naughty. You opened the door suddenly to make me fall into your embrace. But I like it." The air in the tavern froze suddenly. "Father." Dang, Amy's eyes widened, wondering if she still had to write today's diary. Mag looked at Eofi, who was in his embrace, and his neck turned stiff. He could already feel the cold murderous intent from behind him. "Honey, listen to my excuses." Mag was about to go crazy. He quickly propped Eofi up straight, and said, "Miss Eofi, please watch your behavior." Eofi? Nickname. Irina was already holding a stool in her hand. "Ayo, Mr. Hades, why are you behaving like that suddenly? Aren't I here because you invited me over for an exchange?" Eofi's eyes were glassy, and she twisted around, wanting to pounce into Mag's embrace again. Mag quickly took 2 steps back. Eofi missed. She lifted her head up, and her flirtatious gaze happened to meet with the 5 pairs of eyes in the tavern. An elegant woman, a cute little Lolita, a beautiful young lady, a plump orange cat, and Hades, with a face of despair. It was apparent that this was a family. Eofi was stunned for quite a while. Suddenly, she shuddered, and came back to her senses. She retracted her arms which were reached out, and almost stood in salute. She smiled awkwardly, and said, "Ah ha ha ha. I am the owner of the tavern across the street. I came over specially to greet everyone. I've had a drop too much with the customers just now, so I'm a little drunk, and I almost fell. Thank goodness Mr. Hades helped me. Hi, everyone. Maybe he wants to help you the entire night," Irina said with a seeming smile. The air around seemed to have gotten a little colder. This woman is not to be trifled with. Eofi glanced at Irina, who was grabbing a chair. She had seen many things, and the moment she felt the cold murderous intent, she felt the urge to run for her life. "Have a good rest, then. It must be very tiring on your first day moving in. See you tomorrow." Eofi pretended that she did not understand what Irina was implying, and turned to leave, even closing the door behind her. Whew! After leaving, Eofi let out a long sigh of relief while leaning against the door. She stomped her feet, and felt utterly embarrassed. Wasn't he supposed to be an eligible bachelor? Mag locked the door from the inside, and turned stiffly. He squeezed out a smile as he looked at Irina, and said, "This neighbor is rather friendly, yet, there aren't many neighbors who start hugging, using nicknames, and even invite the other over for an exchange," Irina said with a smile. The smile on Mag's face stiffened gradually. He said guiltily, "It's not what you think it is, what do you think I think it is?" Irina asked with a smile. Mag felt terrible, and felt very wronged. He glanced at the 2 kids, and said, "Look, the children are still around. If you have problems with this website, please continue reading your novel on our new website mythanks. Father, we're going upstairs to play." Amy and Annie cleared up, and left the adults with enough space. "Now it's just the 2 of us." Irina raised the chair. "I think we can talk things through nicely." Mag swallowed. Smack! The chair landed on the floor, and Mag retracted his foot instinctively. He looked at the chair in front of him, and then at Irina, who had a seeming smile. "Don't be nervous. Take a seat, we'll talk it through nicely." Irina sat on her bar stool as she looked down on Mag. Mag sat upright and glanced at Irina, who was on the bar stool. He felt as though he was interrogated. "I actually don't know her. We just met in the morning and exchanged greetings. She's probably here to find trouble after seeing how talented I am," Mag explained. "Go on." Irina wrapped her arms in front of her chest. "You have no idea. It's getting more and more dangerous for a man outside. There will always be women with bad intentions trying to prey on us and take advantage of us with whatever means they have. Although I've already tried my best to protect myself, sometimes, there are still some things I could not prevent," Mag explained. "Really?" Irina did not seem to believe it. Mag was on the brink of tears. If he'd known, he would have subdued that demon the moment he opened the door, and there would not have been so much trouble. "Oh, right, honey. I bought the entire street for you. From today onwards, not only are you the lady boss of this tavern, but you're also the prettiest landlady of this entire street." Mag suddenly thought of a very important matter. He stood up and took out a chest from behind the counter, and placed it on the bar counter with a loud thud. After that, he opened the chest to reveal the whole chest full of title deeds. Usually, at this time, women would go, "Hubby, you look so suave pulling that chest out." However, Irina only glanced at the chest and squinted. After that, she asked Mag, "Where did you get the money from?" Danger. Mag thought to himself. After so much calculation, he forgot that the family finances had already landed in Irina's hands. Right now, every single cent he spent would be considered his secret stash. If I said I found it, would you believe that? Do you think I will believe that? I just collected some payments a few days ago. It's not much. How much? Just this much. Please keep it. Mag dug out a mountain of gold from the empty space in the tavern. No more. None. Are you sure? Not a single drop left, Grandpa. We've already been walking around this mountain for 2 days, and we didn't even see a single shadow. Are we walking in the wrong direction? Noya, who was sitting at the steel eagle's neck, said while munching on some dried goods. Judging from the weak reaction on the SAHDR oracle, there isn't a mistake in the direction. It's just that the trails are a bit messy, so it won't be easy finding him, Morant said calmly with his eyes closed. The SAHDR oracle that was suspended before him spun gently. Just then, he opened his eyes, reached out, and grabbed a little talisman with 2 fingers. There's news from Boss Mag. Noah asked excitedly as he turned his head back. Let's go to Rodu. Morant glanced at the white talisman in the shape of a person. The talisman was quickly engulfed in a ball of neon green flame. Really? Noya's eyes lit up. After staying in the mountains for 2 days, without eating well or staying warm, he was excited to finally be able to go to a big city like Rodu. Chapter 1999 Don't Understand. Don't understand. The courtiers were all shaking with fear, afraid to speak. They could understand His Majesty's wrath. The military generals' cases were still undergoing investigation, and before there was even a result, these generals, including their families, were all murdered. On top of that, it happened in Rodu. This was akin to giving the king of the mighty Roth Empire a tight slap. In addition, this also made all the courtiers a little worried and fearful. They thought that they would be very safe in Rodu, but they never expected that someone would actually dare to murder generals and their entire families. That meant that they might very well be the next ones dead. Andrei calmed himself down, and told the other courtiers, from now on, the Empire will be going into first-tier battle preparation. Start sending resources and soldiers to the front lines to prepare for war anytime. Yes. The courtiers bowed to accept the order. Dismissed. Andrei turned to leave as the courtiers bowed to see him off. Did you find out who did it? Andrei asked softly when he got up to the observatory. Your Majesty, based on the tracks left behind, it should have been an orc. To be capable of that, it must be at least a 10th tier orc. But according to our investigations, the orcs' 10th tier powerhouses were all in Twilight Forest that day. These tracks could be fake, a man in a black robe replied with a slight bow as he appeared from the darkness behind Andrei. That coward Oster is still putting up an act. With that kind of guts, he would never dare to provoke me now, Oster scoffed coldly. The man in black remained silent. Continue with the investigations. I want to see who exactly dares to do something like this in my Rodu, Andrei ordered. Yes, the man in black replied, and his body faded into the darkness. After handing over more than half of his secret stash, Mag still did not manage to escape death. Chip off the old block, Mag said with a resigned expression as he watched Irina count the amount of the mountain of gold happily. However, today's incident also reminded Mag that he should not say anything about exchanges with a stranger. Otherwise, it would be difficult to explain himself if the girl turned up in the middle of the night for an exchange. Are you still going out tonight? Irina looked up at Mag. Yes. I'm meeting someone. I intend to go to take a look around the houses of the generals who were murdered to make sure if it was done by Josh. Mag nodded. If you have problems with this website, please continue reading your novel on our new website mythanks. I'll go with you, then. I'm more sensitive to the black fog, Irina said as she kept the pile of treasures with a wave of her hand. Okay. With you around, it'll be easier to find him. Mag dropped a bootlick at the right place. Of course. Irina smiled. This worked very well on her. Not long later, someone knocked on the door. Mag jolted first. He thought carefully about whether he said anything about exchanges to other women. However, the 9 short knocks and 1 long knock quickly calmed him down. He opened the door. Indeed, standing outside were Morant and Noya. The two were stunned when they saw Mag at the door. After that, they put their guard up. It's me. Come on in. Mag used the face-altering mask to change into another face. It was only normal that the two could not recognize him. When they heard Mag's voice, they understood, and went into the restaurant. The warm tavern made them a little more relaxed. Noya quickly noticed Irina, who was standing by the counter. He was shocked, but quickly retracted his gaze courteously. He turned to look at Mag, and said sorrowfully, "Boss Mag, do you have food? I'm starving from flying around the mountains on the back of a steel eagle." Mag looked at the two of them. It was indeed tough to fly in the mountains for 2 days on a steel eagle with no wind-blocking abilities in this weather. "You can wash up there. I'll make you some food." Mag pointed to the washroom at the side as he walked towards the kitchen. "Sister-in-law, how do you do?" Noya greeted Irina courteously. Although such a beautiful and elegant woman was a rare sight, he could still feel her strong presence. That was what he felt only in front of his grandfather. This meant that this beautiful woman was already a 10th-tier powerhouse, and killing him would be as easy as killing an ant for her. As for Boss Mag, his grandpa said that he had no confidence in defeating Boss Mag. Mag still used whatever ingredients he had. However, he did not intend to sell any dishes that were sold in Mamie restaurant. In no time at all, Mag made a bowl of Yangzhou fried rice each for the two of them. It was a simple and quick dish. "Thank you, Boss Mag. I'll dig in then." Noya picked up his spoon, and wolfed down the Yangzhou fried rice as he immersed himself in its deliciousness. "This is too good." After licking the plate, Noya exclaimed unsatisfactorily. He felt his entire body become warm and fuzzy, and the exhaustion from the past 2 days was completely gone. "Don't understand." "Don't understand," Morant, who had also just placed his spoon down, was puzzled. "Grandpa, what don't you understand?" Noya asked curiously. Mag and Irina also looked at him in bewilderment. Morant said, "How can a powerhouse make such good food?" Mag was very satisfied with this kind of unexpected bootlicking. If he did not have something important tonight, he would make a couple of dishes more, with a few glasses of drinks. "Let's start on the important things now that you're done eating. Have you discovered anything on your way north?" Mag asked the two. "We discovered some dispersed evil aura, but it was very difficult to tell its traces." Morant shook his head. He looked at Mag, and said, "You told us to come to Rodu, did you find anything?" Mag said, "There were a few family murder cases last night in Rodu. The victims were all the generals related to this campaign against orcs and their families. The murder means were very cruel. In addition, the murderers set everything ablaze to end off. I suspect that this incident is related to Josh. He might have returned to Rodu. Let's take a look at the scene." Morant stood up with a serious expression. Mag was not in a hurry to leave. He looked at Morant and Noya as he said, "This is Rodu. It might be an exaggeration to say that the roads are filled with 10th tiers, but there are definitely more of them than in the mountains. Be careful in whatever you do. If they set eyes on you, things would be difficult. In terms of stealth and invisibility, there is no race that does it better than us, the Ghost Clan." Morant smiled confidently. "Let's set off then. We'll go to the site to understand the situation." Mag nodded. In the darkness, the group disappeared from Romo Street in a flash. The Septaria Oracle is very active. He has been appearing in Rodu recently indeed. Morant looked at the spots of golden glow as his expression turned grave. There's an evil aura there. A very strong evil aura, Irina said seriously as she squinted. You can see the evil aura too. Morant looked at Irina in shock. Do you think this is a special ability that only the Ghost Clan has? Irina pressed her lips together. It's just that it is too rare for people to have this ability. Morant shook his head. He looked back at the burnt mansion, and said seriously, I can confirm that this was done by the same person that wiped out the Twilight Forest tribes. They have the same source of evil aura. However, he was probably in a rush when he committed the crime, so he could only absorb part of the resentment and souls. If we could enter the ruins, we should be able to get more information from the spirits. There are guards there. Look, 2 there and 1 hiding on the roof. And all around, there are other guards. When something like that happens, they will definitely increase patrols, with tens of patrolling troops overlapping. Any sound will attract them over. If you've got what it takes, you can go over and take a look, Mag said calmly. They're just a 7th tier and 2 6th tiers. Easy. Morant smiled, took a step out, and disappeared into the night like a phantom. In no time at all, the 3 knights at the rooftop and the distant entrance fell into a trance. In the middle of the ruins, an inconspicuous spell formation appeared, making it difficult for anyone to see what was happening inside. Stealth and deception are one of the talents of the Ghost Clan, Noya explained with a smile proudly. Just this. Irina smiled. This is already very impressive. Noya nodded. Kid, you've got to see the world. Irina shook her head, and did not speak further. If it were not because Noya could not defeat her, he would definitely say something. Not long later, the inconspicuous spell formation within the ruins disappeared, and Morant returned. The 3 knights also returned to their senses. They looked around, puzzled, and did not seem to have realized what happened to them. How is it? Mag asked. It was the same black-robed person as the one in Twilight Forest. I couldn't see his face clearly, but his habits and silhouette are exactly the same. On top of that, he set up the place to frame the orcs, Morant said with a grave expression. Mag nodded slightly. It was exactly as he thought. In that case, let's start looking for him. Perhaps he's still in Rodu. Okay. Morant brought out the Septeria Oracle once again. This time, it was slightly different. He added a soul fragment into the Septeria Oracle. This is a soul fragment from one of the victims. It is filled with resentment, which will allow us to trace the evil aura back to the origin and lock our search boundaries on the man in black, Morant explained. That is a very advanced skill. Mag could not help but praise it. If you have problems with this website, please continue reading your novel on our new website mythanks. As the soul fragment entered the Septeria Oracle, a twisted ghastly face appeared on the Septeria Oracle, and a blood-red light started darting around within the Septeria Oracle. On top of that, the faint flickering golden glow started moving. 3 minutes later, Morant looked up. He shook his head slightly, and said, I'm afraid he was alarmed and left Rodu. Is there a way to conceal his evil aura and go into hiding? Mag asked. Theoretically, this should not happen. The Septeria Oracle is a divine object, and it is very sensitive to the evil aura. Right now, with the resentment, it would definitely detect the evil aura unless he was already so powerful he could ensure that he would not leak out any evil aura at all. Morant shook his head. It would be troublesome if he started to play hide and seek. Mag frowned. He thought that there would be a chance to find Josh after coming to Rodu, but this fellow had become even craftier than before. The closer he is, the better the Septeria Oracle will be able to detect him. For the next 2 days, we will be going around the different towns near Rodu to see what we can find, Morant said. All right. Do be careful. If there's any trouble, you can look for me at Saipan Tavern. Mag nodded. Splitting up could narrow down their search targets. After watching Morant and Noya leave, a frowning Irina asked Mag, "Say, what do you think Josh is doing all this for?" "Eyeing my wife." Mag looked at Irina, who was still as elegant and beautiful even though she had changed her appearance to look like a human being. He thought to himself, he probably got way too ahead of himself, and wants to become the king and control everything. He had been enduring for so many years. Although he's the second prince, he was still a very strong contender for the throne. Even Sean would not have the confidence of defeating him. Doing this suddenly at this time would disqualify him. This is bewildering. Maybe my death threat had triggered him. Mag thought that this was the only probable reason. In that case, what else should we do? Irina asked Mag. Mag smiled. Go home, sleep, wait for news, and avoid alarming the enemy. Look, that tavern seems not bad. That's not very appropriate. The two kids are still at home, they should be asleep. I'll set up a defense spell formation outside the tavern so no one can enter. All right, let's eat and drink a little. Mag nodded. 2 hours later, the two returned to the tavern, slightly intoxicated. The moment they opened the door, they saw a resentful Amy, who was at the table with her arms akimbo, and a sleepy Annie. The 4 pairs of eyes met, and the atmosphere was awkward. "Father, Mother, did you two go out for good food behind our backs again?" Amy said begrudgingly. We actually only went for a stroll." Burp. Mag was already trying very hard to control himself, but he could not stop the burp. "Yes, we went to have roasted lamb shanks. It was delicious," Irina said with a smile. "Ah, you're too much. You went to eat roasted lamb shanks without us." "I'm going to cry," Amy pouted, and tears started welling up in her eyes immediately. "Meow, meow." Ugly duckling stretched lazily, meowing casually as a form of support. Mag smiled and went up to Amy. He stroked her head, and consoled, "All right, if you want to eat, I'll make it for you right now. Spicy crayfish, roast mutton, roast beef kebab, grilled fish, whatever you want to eat. Name it away."